immediate aftermath of 9/11. We did some things that were wrong. We did a whole lot of things that were right.
We've taken control of the oil in the Middle East, the oil that we're talking about.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create.
We choose truth over facts.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. The foothills of the Himalayas.
Television.
We are fighting Satan himself.
Journalists, ask them the question! Ask them! Ask them! Ask them!
Agreed that everybody once they inside they should. Anyway, my time's up. I'm sorry. America's dead.
That's right. America is dead.
America's dead. Good evening,
my fellow proletarians.
Welcome.
Family. Thank you, everyone, whoever is joining us today. Now, if you can, if you happen to be seeing this now, if you like the stream, that boosts us up in the algorithm. So give us a good thumbs up if you just hop in for a little. But we're going to go over some of the latest in the nuclear war, World War III.
Impending. It's not there yet, but it looks like it's on the horizon.
We're going to be discussing the globalists.
The globalists. But this past weekend, I went to DC for the 300,000 reported number this past Saturday.
Yeah, could you see it? Because that's the number that I heard. You really think it was around 300,000?
It was definitely it was definitely like hundreds of thousands.
That's
how'd it go?
Insane.
Like completely like, I mean, yeah. It took 8 hours of driving, but it was done. It got done.
That's awesome.
But,
I'm glad that there weren't like a metric fuck ton of people like running around purity testing to make sure they're in the proper echo chambers. Because
right, like imagine if we did that for another war like Ukraine. Imagine if we did that like for like some other war.
Well, but you see, like there's no bar for the Democrats now that they've said that like genocide isn't enough to stop them from voting. So like
I'm just
anybody. It's so.
Word like Hamas apologists to come out. Like I'm just
ridiculous.
I'm honking on that word. It's
apologist.
Hamas apologist.
I just Greg, honestly, man, you nailed it perfectly. They have stage 4 terminal HDS. We need to be compassionate with these people. They need medical assistance.
I really think they need help. Before we get into, we have some updates on Ukraine. Speaking of which, Zelensky.
Speaking of people who need help,
no, Zelensky's not having a great time, folks. It's really not.
He's down. He's down bad, as the kids say.
Is this down bad, or is this like crackhead bad?
It's pretty pathetic.
This is pretty sad, guys. Watch this.
If you can't give us some financial support, okay, please give us a credit and we will give you back money.
Give us a credit.
Let me borrow the money. I'll make you rich.
Bro, do you not know who fucking MasterCard is? Like, my God.
He's ready to sell out the rest of Ukraine.
You give the money to me. I give it back to you. What's the big problem? I don't understand.
What was that accent, Greg?
It's whatever he's talking in.
If you can't give us some financial support, okay, please give us a credit.
We give us
and
credit.
We will give you back money.
We give you the money.
Well, it's like you saw that Time article that they've been talking about this week. It's like apparently Zelensky is like just delusional at this point.
Yep.
And is like can't see that it's a loss because for the last 2 years the NATO apparatus has just been like filling his brain with hope. And then they just like we all saw it coming. We knew one day that the NATO was just gonna, and the US was gonna be like, okay, no more. And like he's like, well, wait a second, my country.
they've been feeding his grandiosity for years, and it's just like, yeah, because even his top advisors now are like, yeah, he's kind of delusional. We can't really get through anymore.
He's broke.
It's pretty sad. Yeah, right.
I'm a psychiatrist who supposedly killed themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Really, same time.
But I just don't believe him. Like even when he's talking in English, I just like he just seems so smugly insincere. It drives me insane.
The thing for me that I wonder about is like if he's still begging and trying to keep himself relevant so he doesn't end up getting suicided. That's kind of how I see it. Like, please keep me in the news.
That's gonna happen.
Well, yeah. So I mean, he's basically like a dead man walking at this point, and he's just sort of like trying to figure it out while like he has the 2 brain cells in his head trying to figure out how to like escape to some island somewhere.
Wait, so you don't think he's looking for his next crack deal?
His next crack deal.
I mean, that's part of it. Like, I'm sure he's got the connects at this point, but I think I don't know. I think
there is a lot of.
I mean, get the win, but
we know how corrupt Ukraine is. Do you really think they've been spending it on weapons this entire time?
Well, we know only a third of the money or the third of the weapons only ended up to Ukraine at the first point. We know that like some of the weapons have ended up in Gaza and
Mexico.
Or, I mean, ostensibly, yeah, Mexico.
Also,
but like,
can we just point out that like how silly this is? Okay, I'm sorry. If I'm Canadian, I'm not going to wear a shirt that has a leaf on it because I'm from that fucking country. What is this like weird branding?
That's part of the theater, right? Is like as soon as the Ukraine war started, you saw him in the cargo pants all the time with the freaking cross training sneakers and the freaking stupid hoodie, or not even a hoodie. It's just a sweater pullover all the time.
It's like that's. Do you not see? It's like, sir, do you not see the giant piece of fabric to the left of your head? You don't got to wear that shirt. We get it. We know where you're from.
I just think it's part of the theater, kind of like I think the media apparatus is a lot more elaborate than just like the words that they say, and that like them giving him a uniform to wear for basically like the last 18 months, 2 years is how people like associate who the good guys and bad guys are on like kind of like a subconscious level. So I think it's like that's why they had him doing the stupid uniform all this time.
Oh, dude, I feel like he's like 3 steps away from John Fetterman. He's wearing that fucking sweater all the time.
We'll get to Fetterman too, but yeah, I would agree. I think he's a little bit like, whereas I think Fetterman is just completely brainwashed and like MK Ultra to death. I think Zelensky is just desperate to stay relevant at this point. And like, I feel like anybody who knows history and knows how the deep state works knows that like his days of being relevant, like the CIA giving a shit about him, wasn't going to last forever. And he just saw the billions upon billions of dollars coming in and probably thought nothing of it. And then I love this video. But yeah, this is exactly the sentiment at this point.
You up? Get the fuck out of here, man. Check this out, man. I got these burgers, man. Hey, fool, I don't want no motherfucking cheeseburger. If you ain't got no money, you just asked out. Call this motherfucker.
Yo, dog, hurry up!
Fuck, man. Come on, man. Wait, man. Man, I suck your dick. Man, I said I suck your dick. Come on, man. Let's get fuck. Suck on that, you bitch-ass trick.
That's what's gonna happen.
That's what they're already doing in the press. He's already the bitch-ass trick, as they say.
I need you to give me like $5, like $20, something like that, because I'm in some trouble.
I can't help you.
Okay, listen. What you gotta do is give me some money, okay?
If you can't give us God give us some
The
financial
same energy, the same exact.
It reminds me.
Okay,
You
please
should
give
do a
us a
meme.
credit.
It's like with the
Please give us a credit.
like it reminds me in Lebowski where there's like, "Where's the money, Lebowski? Where's the money, Lebowski?"
Yeah, exactly. The extra funny part, though, is this also demonstrates how out of touch he is as a world leader, because like the West isn't just giving money to Ukraine; they're going to be in fucking debt. That's not just free money; they're going to owe the West for
Yeah, like does
all
that
of
sound
that
like a
aid.
great idea? Does that sound like a good idea to you to put your country in debt?
Well,
so
that's the
that
first
you
thing I
sell
thought
it off
of when I saw
afterwards?
this was he's ready to sell out. He's ready to shock doctrine the shit out of the country and just make them
Yeah.
completely broke within a decade. Like it's
Yeah.
going to be a disaster. People are going to be killing each other. There's going to be freaking it's going to be really, really, really ugly in Ukraine over the next 15 years or so.
I wouldn't be surprised if they had a revolution, to be honest.
Not again.
Hey,
Well,
wait, hold on.
To be fair,
is that Putin's long game here? Is he playing 4D chess?
Well, like that's the thing is that isn't the Donbass going back to Russia sort of the revolution meeting its goal? Like they got back assimilated into the former Soviet Union. They kind of got what they wanted, right?
Yeah.
No, that was what was supposed to happen.
Right.
Like
I mean, that was like supposed to be the Minsk agreements from day one, but
this is. I mean, we're gonna get into this later, but I feel like this is just like how we play out every war. It's like distractions, 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 and then when you're allowed to tell the truth, it's already too late. Once you
there's always a new psyop.
But we can
There's
totally
always one.
say like he's
always a
begging
new
to sell
psyop.
out. The thing is, he's
like,
still.
You gotta get to the next thing. This is the USA, baby. You gotta get every week. There's a new thing. So I'm sorry, but he's in the dust now. He's in the dustbin of history. I don't know.
Sorry, if someone like me who's riddled with ADHD can see this shit, then there's no excuse for anybody else.
Absolutely no excuse.
I'm still waiting for them to privatize the shit after the war is over and after like the Donbass is part of Russia. That's when like the horrors are going to start with Ukraine. Like they it's bad now, but then when they start trying to redevelop their industry and rebuild everything, and they have all the public-private partnerships, it's just going to be a fucking nightmare. Everything's going to be privatized. Oh, you got all that war to pay for, and it's just going to be an absolute nightmare. Yeah. Absolute nightmare. I remember seeing stuff months ago about how there's some pharmaceutical companies that are already setting up shop in Ukraine. So like the fix is already in. Like it's already the process of neoliberalizing Ukraine is already commenced.
How will he be remembered in Ukrainian history?
He will not.
Complete clown.
He'll be I feel like he'll be remembered as like a really dark moment that nobody wants to talk about. They're like, yeah, so we had like an actor and he did a bunch of cocaine about it, and then he ruled the country and he fucked us, and that's why we're all eating dirt today, honey.
Yeah, like if it wasn't for Zelensky, we would still have like land connected to the sea. And now it's not the case, and it's going to be a completely landlocked country, and that's what he's going to be remembered for, completely destroying the country.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like simped for NATO, and he ended up being super corrupt. And he has a place in Miami, doesn't he? He has a place in Miami. I think there was a place in the Donbass that his wife had that got taken over by Russia.
He's probably
I think he has a golden parachute. He's like has an escape plan for something, but like that he's gonna be remembered as the guy who completely turned Ukraine into a rum state. And how many hundreds of thousands is it? Like I've heard wildly like numbers all over the place, anywhere from 100 to 300,000 people have died from the Ukraine side. So it's an insane number either way, and that's going to be one of his legacies as well. You know, all these freaking men who died.
And what's hilarious is how many people still think this is like, I'm sorry, y'all. Like at this point, Putin has made way too many statements explaining exactly what is going on here. And if y'all refuse to listen to it at this point, then yeah, sure. Let's pretend Putin's just like doing bad guy things because he's a bad guy, because that's what a fucking adult should think.
Wasn't this
Huh?
part of the narrative? Wasn't he supposed to say, like, wasn't he supposed to take over, like, the entire world? I thought he was supposed to come over and take over Germany, all these other I thought it was I thought he was gonna attack a NATO country, and that was the whole what was going on exactly? Because I feel like we just got, like, it was like, Ukraine! 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 And we're just like, what the fuck is happening? Like, I felt like that was
Oh no,
what that was about.
Oh no, I just I saw an MSNBC article a little while ago. They've changed it now. Apparently he's simultaneously dying and taking over the world. Like they're both happening at the same time, I guess. So that's good.
Come on.
Yeah, so we couldn't
No,
assassinate our drones that we sent to Moscow, but we're gonna pretend that we're dying to cope from all this absolute abject failure.
That's the 2 more weeks for liberals. It's like, yeah, any week now Putin's gonna die. Any week. Just like that period.
I mean, and then they'll resurrect him, and then they'll kill him again, and like he's Putin is such a good bad guy that all the liberals like latched onto. So I think they'll milk it, and like they'll milk his corpse forever. Like,
well, think about all the bullshit you watch on television. Look at all those Bond villains and shit. He's literally like a textbook like James Bond villain, and.
Well, that's kind of thing. It's like you watch GoldenEye and like the freaking antagonist has like a thick Russian accent, and like you watch like old Bond movies and they have like thick Russian accents because that was part of like the Cold War propaganda.
Yep.
And so it's like they got this guy who kind of like fits the role of all the fucking theater that everybody's been exposed to for fucking generations.
Yep. And they don't even realize that the average person in the West doesn't even click for them. They're like, oh, bad guy in movie. Like bad guy on
real bad guy. Oh my god! It's like they're the same thing.
Fake bad guy,
do
like
that?
A real bad guy. Life is like the Marvel movies.
That's really what it's like. That's really what it's like.
I can't think of a better place for our bastion of democracy. Honestly, and Zelensky's not holding elections again this year, so it's like we need this country. We need this country out of the dirty hands of Putin. Otherwise, all of our safety is threatened. So that's the reality.
Well, yeah, guys. No, you just don't understand. He's not going to hold elections until he gets credit, Greg. That's how it works.
Right. Money, please, money.
Credit. Need credit for elections.
Well, that's the thing. He's not going to have elections because he's still part of the guy who's going to facilitate the like ravaging of the country after he takes the L. So that's why they're keeping him around, is because they need to like do the public-private partnership. They need to do the fucking shock doctrine on that bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you guys, no worries. We got legalized cannabis.
Yeah, I saw this like a small W, I guess. It's like, oh man, these guys have no hope.
We might have lost a lot of land, but we got the
weeds. So now, like everybody who's still alive who has PTSD for the rest of their lives can at least smoke some weed. Dude,
just smoke some grass, buddy. Yeah, sure. You lost 100,000 lives. You might have lost a lot of. You might have ruined your entire legacy. You might even completely ruin your entire credibility on the world stage as a country. But you got weed. You got.
I feel like that headline is just like that's what liberals want to see. That's like what liberals want to see. Oh, you know what? They're standing up. They're really progressive. They're really progressive. Yeah. Never mind that like weird patch that they got and the like thing that looks like a sun. Don't worry about that stuff. They got legal weed now.
I'll never get over how like every single like boogeyman for our weird political spectrum is some like silly cartoon character. The boogeyman on the left is some Bond villain. The boogeyman on the right's fucking Dr. Evil. Like, what the fuck is going on here?
It's like it's coordinated. It's like it's planned.
It's almost like this is all just.
It's like I named my Twitter account Bread and Circuses back in 2020 when I was like just starting to like be like, oh, what else is the government lying about? And now it's like all I see, and I'm like, okay, like I didn't have the foresight of seeing how prescient, how like everywhere and all encompassing the theater production that we're exposed to everywhere is.
It's just pro wrestling. That's all it is.
It's professional wrestling on a world stage, but
it really is just WWF. And I remember learning about that's funny, and I remember learning when that was all made up. And I knew people in like 8th grade, 9th grade, 7th grade, whatever. And even though they knew it was made up, they still like loved watching it and everything. So I guess to that degree.
I remember there being arguments in like grade 7 over that, where it's like you hit that weird period of watching it as a kid where like factions kind of believed it was real and other factions believed it was fake, and you were like arguing about it. And I'm old enough to remember that was going on simultaneously in addition to the whole like Sega versus Nintendo shit where it's like you had to pick a side, and it's like God damn. Huge L to Sega though. God damn, they did not win.
Speaking of picking sides, let's get into our first
nice
section here, which we well, first I wanted to show that today actually they managed to get a port in Tacom. You can
That's awesome.
So
any sort of arms shipments.
It looks like this from this morning. So the Tacoma port.
The goal here is to delay, or if we can, stop any sort of arms shipments from the United States to Israel.
Which I think, like, I give this I give this a lot of credit because like we're now like this is like the trucker situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need to be attacking capital. We're not going to get
this is shutting down the supply lines. This is where it hurts.
We're not going to be getting around anywhere by just yelling and holding signs. Okay, when we're doing shit like this and boycotting works. I want to do a segment on that one day, maybe. But like, this is like an effective way to, if you want to peacefully protest, I guess. I mean, they're
shutting down supply lines is like fucking huge.
I know.
Making sure they don't get their freaking weapons and supplies is very helpful.
I was getting yelled at by like every third Canadian up here, but I was just sitting here like, that's clever. Y'all, I don't know if y'all intentionally are doing this and you understand the bigger implications of what you're doing, but very well done. Because the second we started interrupting Capitol, that's when everything hit the fan.
Remember in the beginning of the year with the French protests, what was one of the first things they did? They shut down the ports.
Yep. And they stormed the fuck out of Black Rock.
Yeah, I remember that. So, tried and true syndicalist praxis is shutting down supply lines.
Yep.
So that's awesome. And there's also there's like Palestinian resistance, which has been shutting down like the Elbit, like Israeli weapons manufacturer at different production plants. So that's been helpful as well. So there has been some very successful direct action outside of just protesting.
As far as I'm aware, they only blocked the ship for 12 hours. So it did go through anyway.
But at the same time, how many millions, if not billions of dollars do you think a 12-hour delay costs?
Oh God,
like,
I don't even
it doesn't matter to us, this might not be a big deal, but to like something like you take for example, like the Suez Canal only allows in like one way at a time. So if like they're shutting down an entire freighter from going somewhere, that could have like a rippling effect across the entire supply chain for weeks.
Yep.
So it can't like I get where you're coming from, but it can still have a significant impact.
And this is the kind of shit that liberals absolutely will not do. They'll always be like, have a modicum of decorum.
Yeah, now's not the time.
Like you can't inconvenience someone with your protests.
What about that guy's job? That's the other thing. Like I saw, I can't find it now, but I did see like a screenshot of like it's like one of the contractors. It wasn't from this morning protest, but like I think there was another ship that they blocked yesterday. But it was like the contractor like posted on Instagram, like an Instagram story saying like, oh, like I'm just a contractor. I don't know what I'm sorry. I don't know.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, if you can find that tweet, let me know. But yeah, that they're definitely feeling it. Like imagine being on that end too. Like
well, the same thing. Here's the thing is like that can go both ways because I remember seeing when the UAW strikes were going and the auto workers strikes were going, there were videos posted up of scabs crossing the picket line, and they're also contract workers. So like, you know, my sympathy for them only goes so far because a lot of them are like, I know they weren't striking there, but I don't know all the circumstances how the contractor ended up on that ship. Like, I don't know enough about the industry. Like, do you know that you're like supplying weapons? Do you know like the manifests? Like, do you know what you're operating with?
I'm sure they get a lot of things. You know? It can't be just weapons.
No, I'm sure it's a bunch of stuff, but like I don't know. It just seems like there's more to the story because I know that like plenty of contractors do scab work. So like,
you know what? I would assume you'd be able to see what the company was that you were shipping from or shipping to.
I mean, I would think that there's some degree of that, but yeah, like you said, there's like especially these big ports, you're not really going to be able to necessarily. It's going to be all sorts of stuff. It could be anything from like teddy bears to freaking assault rifles, right?
Yeah.
So you never really know from one day to the next, maybe. But that's kind of thing. It makes it hard for people to kind of have discretion if it's always going to get back to you where you're like, oh, well, you know, at some point in my career, I'm supplying weapons to an evil authoritarian country. Yay me. Can't get away from it.
So on Saturday, actually, I happened to be in Max Blumenthal. I had no idea that. I mean, this was like this was 6 blocks wide of people, but I know Dan Cohen was there. I like how we're putting up our own
bunch of people
now. Which, like, what does it mean by like when you put up a poster of someone that's kidnapped 6,000 miles away? What does that do?
Yeah, but that's the Hasbara. I'm actually talking about that stuff. I bring up that exact piece. Yeah.
I love that shit right there.
That's a good meme right there.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's crazy. 300,000 would be probably one of the biggest events we've had, one of the biggest protests we've had in recent years, huh?
Yeah,
it's this and historic Iraq levels of like people running out. Like I said, like easily, like when I said this like 10 times bigger, like I was so wrong that like when I was like trying to walk out, it was just floods and floods of blocks of people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like I've said this before, but I feel like this is kind of the straw that broke the camel's back in a lot of ways. And the hilarious thing is, I don't think anybody at the top knows what the fuck to do with their propaganda not working, and that's just
beautiful. I think you're right. See. I think they totally thought that they were going to be able to bomb the shit out of Gazans, and people were just going to look away or be like with another current thing that they weren't going to pay attention. I don't think they were expecting this sort of outcry.
A lot of these like organizations, like I know Answer Coalition is like Soros funded. So it's almost like a betrayal of class almost, because like obviously Soros is very pro-Israel. And like so like they're taking like the billionaire money for all like the fucking corporate carbon shit and then using it for good for like organizing humongous shits like fucking I haven't been to a protest this big.
I think there's
I've never been in this like open area with this many people at once. Like you couldn't move anywhere. You had to wait. Like
That's amazing because that stuff, like the president noticed. Well, you know, a coherent president would notice that, but his handlers notice it. The administration notices it because, like, you see it on the news, and I bring it up in my segment. But like, people start like the narrative is kind of shifting, and they're kind of like humanizing Gazans more, and they're sort of kind of fielding that. The administration overplayed its hand and Israel overplayed his hand and Netanyahu overplayed his hand, thinking they could just turn it into a parking lot and get away with it.
And also, the establishment period overplayed their hand because it's like, okay, guys, how many fucking plates are you going to spin here? Are you just going to be dumping psyops on people and not thinking that one day maybe like enough of them are just going to be like, all right, I'm done. This is, I'm sorry. Like,
and that's why, and like you bring up the thing with
psyop cycle. Like I think Hamas, like obviously they didn't know like when this was coming, so I think they have like a certain time period of like when psyops are supposed to last, and so they can move on to the next thing. And then when Hamas they're like, no, too soon. But sorry.
Well, so I was gonna say, like, I kind of like what you were saying with Answer Coalition and the Soros connection, that there's, there are, I think, competing bourgeois factions that aren't necessarily always aligned with like the deep state or the establishment, which is like CNN, MSNBC, like Congress, etc. So like on the one hand, we have our establishment, which is willing to completely destroy this country to maintain control over Israel. And then you have, other bourgeois factions that are like, well, wait a second, I still want my money to be good here in a few years. I still want to be like a ruler of this country. I still want to be an oligarch. Let's not destroy the country yet. It's kind of how I see it.
Well, it's also just, I mean, the name of the game is to win, right? One of them's got to win eventually.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
That's beautiful.
Jeez. Really couldn't move anywhere.
Well, because like this is like 66% of the country agrees to a ceasefire. I mean, it's not, you can just like this is like
most
healthcare
people.
Like healthcare for all they can ignore because like they don't like really. No one knows what healthcare is in this country. So, they don't like they've never had it in their life. So it's just foreign to them. And but this we're seeing Gaza like dead children on TV, like on well, not only on TV but not necessarily but like online, just endless.
Yeah, it's so in your face, and with TikTok and stuff, like people are seeing all this stuff pretty viscerally.
And the thing I gotta, one thing I want to
like,
say, sorry,
a very long time. Like it's been 75 years. They can't really. Sorry about that.
So,
one thing I want to just say real quick is that all of the people who are like rah Israel, they're seeing that shit too. So if anything, this is a really good empathy test because it's pretty much unavoidable on social media now. We're seeing this all over the place. We're seeing dead kids. We're seeing carnage all over the place. And so all the people who look at that and they feel nothing from it, and then they're like, yeah, well, you know what? I'm going to side with my phony team. Like, that's a really good empathy test because normal, like, decent people, most of them, you can't not feel something from that. So,
yeah, it's like the people who are still, after being exposed to all this freaking disgusting stuff, have to just double down on their beliefs. And they're like, okay, well, I guess I'm down with genocide now. And that's the way it's going to be because they'd rather be like that than admit that they're wrong and admit that they were like the fascists.
I'm sorry, that fucking sign kills me still. This man is the nastiest skank bitch I've ever met. Do not trust him. He is a fugly slut.
So they are trying to. I know they are trying to organize a pro-Israel protest in DC soon. I think it's on the 17th. Give Israel Florida, yes. Just take Florida instead.
and that's so much bigger than freaking Israel. Israel is tiny. I think people don't know how big Israel is. Israel's like this. It's like the size of freaking what, like Rhode Island, maybe not even.
So this is like a long enough conflict for like even the older generation to like get it. You know what I mean? So they also have those numbers.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
it's
but
funny because
the
I was actually
older-
I've got some data to back up about which demographics this is like people are coming around to and which aren't, and it's basically like the boomers, the people who grew up thinking that like TV was like where you got your information. They're kind of like a lost cause, and everybody else is kind of coming around.
Yeah,
because boomers are like 95% in favor of Israel. It's like really bad.
Well,
Like,
of
no.
course. Well, the thing is, like, I feel like generations that were closer to World War II are probably more susceptible to that. Because there's more avenues to, like, exploit that trauma.
That's a good point. I could see that. Did you put the music over that? Is there like somebody have a boombox at this thing?
It was so cool.
Oh, sorry, man. I'm playing that with my
awesome.
hands right now.
It's like the Biden with the.
Damn.
Damn. Those beats are fresh. Snap.
They should have tried to take over freaking Congress.
Now the next step after this. The next step after this is to show people what a number that large of human beings would be capable of doing for you. Like, I feel like one of these days we've got to have one of these huge like gatherings in a Minecraft game and you know, do something about it. Be very fucking inconvenient. That's all I'm going to say. Cuz like I feel like a lot of the ruling class just sees this and they're probably freaked out. I'll give all the white pills for this cuz it is a white pill in and of itself. But you know, they're probably thinking like, okay, well, if we just bury our heads in the sand, they'll all go home at some point and it'll be over. But it's like one of these days we got to remind them like, hey, motherfuckers, remember Canada or whatever.
So one of the themes I'm seeing where people are trying to understand why the US in particular, like why there's so much protest, and when usually we're like pretty laissez-faire and not really like keyed into global politics much at all. And the consensus that I'm seeing is that because people are so aware of how much money we throw at Israel and how much money we give them every year, that like American citizens feel like it's the one thing we can do to try and kind of like mitigate the damage is to take away that all that money that we give them, you know? I think maybe that's why, like, we feel that even if we can't articulate that it's imperialism, that's how people are reacting to it. You know, it's like the one thing we can do, because nobody else is funding Israel, like, is responsible for this more than outside of Israel, the United States, I would say.
This surprised me. There was actually Biden staffers on the ground. That's how you know it's bad. Yeah. This is Biden's staff.
Okay. This is a pretty easy equation though, right? Because fucking Orange Man, I didn't see a peep from any of the liberal apparatus at all until Orange Man was like, I'm on Team Israel. And that's when they jumped in. That's when George Takei, for example, made a statement. So, like, the way this works is it's a really awkward position, I imagine, for the ruling class, because they have to keep up the cosplay and they have to oppose Orange Man because they can't be on the same side as Orange Man. They have to oppose everything. Perfect example of this was
so you think they're cynical enough to be playing both sides right now on it?
Oh fuck yeah, of course. Of course.
Dude.
Of
Oh my
course.
god. The
Yo, why do you
fucking
think they're calling for a humanitarian pause? They will never.
because
they're not gonna-
because they know a ceasefire, like they can't get the ceasefire, so they just make up a term. Like I don't even know if a humanitarian pause is like a real term or if they just made it
doesn't
up
mean
to make
anything.
it sound. Doesn't mean
It doesn't.
anything. It's just a made up term. Yeah. So they just
It just
create a term that has no meaning.
Use the bombs a
Because
little bit more.
how's that even how would that even work for the totally real and not phony election that's coming up? What is Trump going to be like? Vote for me because I'll support Israel super hard. Like they have to play like the opposing side. That's the only way this works.
Yeah,
The
it's just
perfect
so backwards because like I was actually explaining this to my dad the other day because he showed me an article on Mike Johnson being a freaking crazy Christian Zionist, and I was like, you vote for a Christian Zionist, right? He's like, no, I don't vote for anybody crazy like that. I'm like, Joe Biden is a Christian Zionist for sure, and like tons of videos on it. Like he's been very open about it for decades. He's the one that said if Israel didn't exist, the U.S. would have to create it. And like he always said, you don't have to be Jewish to be a Zionist. Like he was crazy. He's like full-throated Zionist for decades. And so this is just like it's like the 1984 quote. They like want you to not believe what your eyes and ears are telling you, and just
it's part of it is cognitive dissonance too. It's like they don't. I think there's like a psychological like sense to like where they don't want their reality to be so completely shook that they want to be safe. Like that's the thing is like people want to feel comfortable. Is like they would rather not, and like I feel like that we should go into this like knowing that like we're gonna be uncomfortable about certain things, and that that's okay.
Well, I feel like that's what I've been trying to explain to the people who are on the side of genocide is like, yo, when Gaza City is a parking lot, how are you going to feel about that when you're seeing numbers on the screen that say like 10,000 people died in this attack by IDF, 50,000 people died in this air attack. Okay, Gaza's gone. We've lost over 1 million people, like 500,000 children. Like, how are people need to sit with that? And if you were on the side of genocide, so part of it, what you're saying, cognitive dissonance, like maybe these staffers are, and I kind of touched upon that in my segment, but maybe sometimes they are trying to play both sides a little bit because like it takes a lot to kind of decouple yourself from like drinking the Kool-Aid as an adult. And at the same time, like maybe some of these people really are understanding that the people that they vote for endorse genocide. I don't know.
But also, like, think about the internal like dissonance, the internal conflict you must have as a person, because you've got what you believed for your entire life on one side, on the other side, you've got a thing based on that belief that is now objectively bad. Like that you have to huff copium. It's one of two things. You either completely like shatter your entire ideology and have like a complete mental breakdown, and then you got to restart the fucking game. Anyway, or you got to double down. You got to be like, yeah, I support this twice as hard, and I'm going to justify it. That's why you see all these people who are like twisting themselves into broken pretzels even to try and like justify all the Israel shit instead of just admitting like, hey, you know what? This is actually super fucked up, and I'm not. Maybe I need to accept that I've been lied to for years upon years.
Well, it's like the fucking thing. Like even when people were like back during COVID, when there were like the mandates and stuff going on, there was still the meme going around where it was like, if you wanted to know how you would have acted during Nazi Germany, like here's your answer, and like here we are, and you're showing your whole ass.
Whole ass, cheeks, balls, all of it.
What's that? Biden said just last year that Putin is committing a genocide in Ukraine. It's completely ass backwards.
And that's a whole other thing. Is like it completely, the Uyghur genocide has pretty much completely died out.
The PSYOP program. I feel like
no,
for
guys,
some reason,
guys, China's really
like
doing that. Okay.
The PSYOP program.
What's that? You broke up a little bit. I think maybe I'm not hearing you very well. Let me turn up a little bit.
Who me or Greg?
Greg.
No, you said
Greg, I feel like. Oh, were you
Oh,
gonna say
okay.
something?
No, I just it was random, but like I just remembered a point I was gonna make like 5 fucking minutes ago. A perfect example of like how these two factions play against each other. And this is an example that I can't devil's advocate myself out of the position. It's like, okay, Orange Man is in office. We're not going to take an experimental vaccine. Fuck that. No, wait. Can you remember the Cutter incident? Remember all these other incidents? And then the second Biden gets into office, they switch 180
They completely switched.
degrees. There's no other explanation for that. It makes no sense. It makes no sense even if you're trying to like convince boomers of it. It's just it breaks your brain the second you look at it.
It's interesting because I was watching Kim Iverson. She was talking about her trip to Palestine, and she said she's like, it's something that like when you start seeing that the government's been lying to you, you're like, what else have they been lying about? And then it's kind of like this traumatic thing that you go through when you realize that everything has been a lie, and you kind of have to reteach yourself. So it's like I totally get. It was definitely traumatic for me when I had to like freaking re-educate myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I understand why people would double down in that circumstance, especially like being part of the group and like you remember all the shit people had of trying to like do the in-group out-group stuff. So I can see why people would double down on just believing the lie. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Fun fact, that's actually what led me to read Capital for the first time.
What?
Just like the insane cognitive dissonance of realizing how much of this is just how much you've been lied to and all that. It was me like I was like, okay, I need to understand why this happens. And that's what eventually led me to reading Capital. Because then it all made a lot more sense because I understood like class analysis and dialectical materialism, and all of a sudden you're like, oh fuck, that's why. It's because okay.
Yeah, it's like a puzzle and it all works now. And like they didn't. It's funny how they tried to gaslight us on this for my entire education.
Yep. Yeah, it's fine. We just gotta keep doing capitalism because Russia had a fucking drought. It's all good. Let's just do that until there's 5 people alive. It's fine, guys. We're good. We're a-okay. I'm so tired.
Hey, it's still gonna get a little bit worse before it gets better. Unfortunately, I think.
Oh, it'll probably get much worse. We're probably all gonna be supremely fucked in the next 5 to 10 years, but that's okay. Tune in to INN to watch the collapse.
Yeah, exactly. What you pulling up, Greg? Did we want to?
Our latest sequence of events, which is just also this past weekend, we had an Israeli prime minister who was fired for he was let go for suggesting something bombastic. Oh my gosh. Dropping an atomic weapon as one of the possible options on Gaza. Now, meanwhile, they've already dropped the equivalent of 2 atomic bombs. They only killed 60 Hamas members. So
is that the quote unquote official number? 60?
Yeah. Yeah, 60 out of 10,000. It's a 99% civilian rate.
Yeah.
So this'll do the job, I think. I mean, the goal is to get them into Egypt, right?
I mean, you could say it's an option of biblical proportions.
I mean, it's just freaking
set up.
It's crazy. It's crazy that people just talk so casually about this stuff and think it's like okay to like, and then I guess it's just as crazy that they can say it knowing that people will be like, yeah, that's a good idea. Why didn't I think about that? And it's just absolutely completely unhinged. These people should be like cut off from making any decisions.
I know, right? They're just like, yeah, we could just do a fallout about it. It's fine. The fuck?
And I mean, the size of Israel is so small that like any fucking fallout from a nuclear explosion in freaking Gaza would impact the entire coast, as well as like reach all the way to Tel Aviv.
Right on their border. What do they think is going to happen?
Like they're gonna blow up. Like what? They're gonna like that fallout's gonna freaking enter into Egypt. Like it's just gonna be a disaster. These people are crazy.
There's people still
So
in Hiroshima
bloodthirsty.
There's people in Hiroshima that are still experiencing symptoms from atomic weaponry. So, what do they think is going to happen to their own people from just being exposed to it?
Hey, but at least they got the Hamas, Mr. Hamas.
At least we the hacker known as Hamas. Bro, do you guys remember that news article where they're like the hacker known as 4chan? And I'm like, oh no. Oh, I love it when they're out of touch about like anything they have no fucking idea about. But yeah. I mean, this is like I feel like this is like a Leroy Jenkins sort of situation. Like they gotta know.
That's the thing. It can get to that because, like, I see how I've seen a little bit. Like, it's been too much. Like I said in a few shows, it's just like I've been overexposed to this stuff. But the stuff that I've seen with some of them trying to do a ground operation into Gaza has not been working well. You know, that like resistance fighters have been pushing them back the entire time.
No, they're fucked on the.
It's eventually going to escalate to like I think a bigger bombing campaign. Like I think we've already seen some stuff that's been bad over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and it's going to be even fucking worse because like Netanyahu's already decided that he already pushed the button. He's already like moving through with the ground assault. Like he's fucking. Wait, what? Oh, okay. I was like, wait, did I miss something? But
calling nuking.
No, because Netanyahu's like already like all for doing the ground assault. He wants to like save his face.
Yeah, but you know
his
why
population. He what?
You know why he got
suspended? Netanyahu got suspended.
It wasn't because he suggested that it was that to drop atomic. You're right. Netanyahu's all for it.
Mm-hmm.
They have a very deliberate nuclear opacity policy, and people get like they've like sent like whistleblowers to jail, like for the rest of their lives for telling nuclear secrets, like for basically saying.
I believe it. They're fucking crazy.
That's the real reason why he got suspended. This is the headline because this is how they want to make it seem. But this is that I just want to make that clear. I mean, I'll also show the video I made earlier later.
What it's basically against the law for a bureaucrat to even discuss the option of dropping nuclear weapons. Like, yes, we do it, but we're not supposed to tell you about it.
Dude,
no.
They broke the rule. What is it? It's better to ask for forgiveness. What is it?
Than to ask for permission.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Like a modified version of that.
They've been doing that for decades with Gaza and the West Bank. You know?
But I mean, like, how long has Israel been? How long has Israel been a nuclear threat for?
That's a good question.
Let me check.
I mean, I'm assuming that the only reason they have a nuclear program is because the U.S. gives them weapons, right? Like, do they actually have a nuclear weapon program?
Like
well, right. I mean, we gave them. Like, I don't know enough about Israeli nuclear program. Did we just be like, here's how to make nukes, or did they like discover how to do it and we enabled that?
They stole it from us. They stole the program, but it was facilitated through like certain actors within the U.S. government. Yeah.
Their first nuclear weapons test was reported. There was a reported local Israeli underground test in 1963, a reported test in 1979.
Yeah, so they've been doing it for fucking half a century, a lot longer.
Yeah. So let's get ready,
weird.
Folks.
Wikipedia.
Got the nuclear arsenal ready, or Iran. Also, friend of the show, the network, Mr. Social Nick, is on the similar wave when I'm talking about nuclear war, which is very possible in this region. I'm going to make the case for it. But it's these small, desperate countries that are going to be the most willing to use them.
Yeah,
so
that's kind of the impression I get.
How crazy this is getting.
Genocide Joe Biden in the United States is threatening war with Iran to protect Israel as it committed genocide against the Palestinians. The United States deployed a submarine that is capable of launching a nuke as a threat against.
Oh, did we just lose it, or was it just that clip? Did you clip?
No, I clipped it. Okay. Something back. So very good.
Genocide Joe Biden in the United States is threatening war with Iran to protect Israel as it committed genocide against the Palestinians. The United States deployed a submarine that is capable of launching a nuke as a threat against Iran. And this is at the same time where Israeli officials were floating the idea of nuking Gaza. Remember when people said that Putin was saber-rattling a nuclear war, even though he never said he was going to use nuclear weapons? Now you have the United States and Israel that is straight up putting nukes on the table, and the corporate media is still like, Israel has the right to defend itself. Like, bruh, if anyone drops a nuke in this region, everyone is fucked. Let's see if we got this straight. The Biden administration is threatening war with Iran because they are illegally occupying Syria and Iraq, and they want to protect Israel as they commit a genocide. Biden is sending nuclear submarines to Australia and South Korea in order to promote war against China. He's currently arming Taiwan to the teeth, a direct violation of the One China policy. Biden also armed neo-Nazis in Ukraine in order to promote endless war with Russia. Joe Biden bombed Somalia. He called for military occupation and intervention into Haiti. He is currently escalating the blockade against Cuba. And the United States is sanctioning 1/4 of the world's population right now. The Biden administration is batshit crazy.
I don't think you
Bro, I will never.
I don't remember Trump being this bad. Was
I will
Trump
never
this
get
bad
over
with
the.
foreign policy?
Well, we had no new wars under Trump, although like he was still funding Ukraine, he was still like supplying weapons to Ukraine, he was still like he killed fucking Soleimani. So it's not like he's innocent, but like I was talking to my mom about this yesterday. Like we
lived in a peaceful world though.
We can show that like there were less wars under Trump than there were under Biden. Like that's just true. You know, that's just a true statement. But you know, I don't really like being in the position where I have to defend Trump because Biden is so bad. Like they're both awful. They're both going to lead to the destruction of this planet. Like,
so
like, why are we like we're so like aligned with this duopoly that like we remain all of our conversations within this one context of, oh, what about this guy or this guy? There's got to be a guy, right?
Doesn't matter, especially with the Israel question. Israel question is like over. It's like 99% like approval, like bipartisan.
Right.
So you know, with a question like with Israel, and really, I would say foreign policy for the most part. Even though I think Trump said just like a couple days ago that he would have stopped the Ukraine war in 24 hours. So I know Trump seems to be more motivated to establish some sort of peace between Ukraine and Russia. But I mean, as far as Israel is concerned, I don't see any difference between Trump policy and Biden policy. It just doesn't. No. Israel and the U.S. Israel is like the 51st state. Like everything that goes on is Israel has like bipartisan support almost like 100% of the time.
Well, it's their most important client state, right?
Exactly. The freaking unsinkable aircraft carrier in the desert. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah. So Trump did two major things. Number one, he hit the high score in drone strikes, everybody. So it's like whenever someone's like, he didn't start any new wars, I'm like, yeah, he was way fucking better at the ones we're all already in. So there's that.
That's kind of what, yeah.
Also, he removed a I'll have to look it up. I think it's called the BOFA policy, but no, all jokes aside, he he did remove something about something I think that was put in place during the Obama admin with reporting like civilian deaths or something like that. I'm tired of my memories hazy, so I don't remember all of that. But it's like, yeah. So it's like, and he did a bunch of other warmonger shit. It's been 50 Shades of Reagan since Reagan, and we all just need to
exactly.
Reagan. Like,
so Victor actually has a thing here. So they talk about nuclear war like it's some casual thing, and I'm over here looking at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So this is a good point, because this is like, I think about this a lot, is that when you're like a bureaucrat working in DC and you're surrounded by the freaking Beltway bandits like Raytheon lobbyists and freaking Northrop Grumman lobbyists and all this stuff, you end up getting into conversations with people and these freaking like 5-star generals and stuff, and they have normal conversations and do war games with, you know, nuclear powers like Russia and China, and they simulate how they can have nuclear war, like wars that take place over years, if not longer. Like nuclear war doesn't eventually happen. Like that's not the actual like end thing that happens. So there's this kind of this fantasy that happens with the people who are that entrenched into establishment politics, that they eventually like can't have a realistic conversation about war and nuclear weapons, because nuclear weapons are always on the table if they have them. You know, that's the thing. So they can't really, like, it's always going to escalate into destruction. You know, I think that's one of the reasons that we haven't seen as quick of a response from countries like Iran on the whole Gaza situation, because they know that if Iran gets involved, the U.S. is involved, Israel is involved, Russia is involved. Like, how many nuclear powers do you want to get involved to turn this? Like, you could just turn freaking the entire Middle East into a freaking crater. So, you know, I think people are trying to, like, some of these powers that be are trying to use some sort of detente and try and like have some. I wish they were a little bit more prudent and faster about it. But I think there's like this balance that they're trying to weigh, because they know with like the freaking submarine in the freaking Mediterranean now, right? It's the Mediterranean where we got nuclear subs like ready to freaking launch missiles into Iran. Like, it's just crazy. It's just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that they're desperate. They don't care. Israel has a very explicit policy of nuking themselves in order to basically get out of a situation. Because
so they see it as a W. They're like, "Oh, gotcha."
Yeah. Israel has the right to bathe itself in nuclear hellfire.
That's kind of, I mean, that's what I mean. Like, they blow up a nuke in freaking Gaza, it's getting into Tel Aviv. Like, it's
just to hammer it home a little bit more. This is from today. Another one.
Now is in the greatest danger that we have been for years, and actually the entire region is in the greatest danger we have been for years. We could theoretically be just 24 hours away from a nuclear war, because there is a credible threat that Hezbollah and other Iranian allies will attack Israel with tens of thousands of missiles, in which case Israel could defend itself with all the weapons it has, including nuclear capabilities. So this is a very dangerous moment. Now is in the greatest danger that we have been for years.
So
and actually,
it's so for those of you who don't know in the chat, Yuval Harari is a transhumanist World Economic Forum lackey. So, you know, when he speaks, he's kind of speaking on behalf of that kind of globalist, imperialist, the stateless oligarchy. And I was going to put that in my, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to put it in my segment anyway. But I think what's interesting about that clip is that here we see that there's some places that are kind of giving credence, and I bring it up anyway. But it's interesting to me that the World Economic Forum is basically giving the rubber stamp for Israel to do what they want to do. That's kind of the impression I'm getting from that announcement, is that he's speaking on behalf of that oligarchy, right? That, like, that's how I see it, that he's always representing this kind of like stateless bourgeois class. So when he speaks, I'm kind of like, oh shit, Like he's basically saying that all these billionaires think it's okay to just turn freaking Gaza into a crater. Or
Well, I
like
mean-
they can find a credible reason. He's like, oh, if there is a credible reason, that means they can find the credible reason.
I just feel like the thing is, there's two things for me at least. Number one, this isn't like the prime aim. It is an aim, but it's not the prime aim. This ain't the last boss. Everybody's been paying attention to the rhetoric coming out of the establishment for the last 10 years. Knows who the last boss is going to be in this whole free fall Western Empire crumbling sort of
Hillary
saga.
Clinton.
Yeah, it's going to be Hillary. She's going to finally transform into the Tarask. And I hope y'all got your 20-sided die, because there no one's on my shift here. But yeah, no. I feel like
I mean, I just want to make it clear that like we're not dealing with
there it is.
rational, sane, like high populated countries with like a giant arsenal. They maybe have like a couple of nuclear warheads, but they're ready to go. Like they're ready. They'll activate them at any point. And I just want to show that Israel, in particular, is insane enough to consider a nuclear holocaust as a legitimate foreign policy position. This is not this isn't like fake or like any sort of like conspiracy thing. This is like things that have actually been coming up with
Yeah, this is part of their freaking war policy.
Yeah. I'm telling you, it's Leroy Jenkins. The original Leroy Jenkins.
Crazy.
But Israel's like main objective is I guess I'll just play the video that I made. But Israel's
I thought you were gonna play your thing.
Israel has an existential crisis on its hands. Israel needs to exist.
Yeah, because it never should have. Oh, never mind.
No.
Never should have existed since day one. But that's why it's always been an existential crisis, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, you should play your video.
Play your video.
Because I looked at it earlier, and it ties in well to where I'm going. My next segment.
Yeah, this is really good work, my dude.
Thank you. So last night, or I've been working on this sort of like the past couple of weeks. I knew I was going to talk about this, so like I've been collecting notes, and like this is just like I already knew everything I was going to say for this, but like I had too much condensed information that I wanted to like say at once. So like, and this is a whole can of worms. Like I'm not even talking about the fact that Israel stole our nuclear policy, and there's this whole back and forth with JFK, and which we talked about. But I just feel like this is important for people to know, because we're not dealing with any regular, rational, sane country. This is Israel. We're talking about people who like, literally like they well, first of all, they're a safe harbor for pedophiles.
I've seen that map.
Sex criminals.
Yeah.
They beat up Christians, Jews. They literally have a live concentration camp at their border.
I mean, it's like we were saying a few weeks ago. Like, imagine the kind of mentality your culture has to have to be throwing a rave when you can see the walls of Gaza.
Imagine being
so brain damaged. So, just incredibly fascist.
I saw TikTok. It was like the live where like it was like two people talk to each other on like TikTok live, and it was a Palestinian and Israeli girl, and like maybe I'll show the clip later, but like it was he was like showing them pictures of dead Gazan babies, and she's like, "That yes, I'm full of joy. I love it. I love it." She's like disgusting, absolute. Like
it's part of their culture. It's crazy.
Part of me,
it's evil. It's the whole country is based off of racism.
I swear, all of these psyops are just different attempts to normalize fascism in places to kind of just push it along a little bit further. With COVID, in some degrees, it was a little bit further. With Ukraine, in some degrees, it was a little bit further. Ukraine got super.
And now we're at the bar. The bar is genocide, which is no bar.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Congratulations.
That's the bar.
Congratulations.
And I'm sorry to everybody who's getting. To everybody who's getting screamed at by chuds in your life, especially if they're frothing at the mouth, but if you're getting screamed at by chuds who say if you don't stand with Israel, you support war, all you got to do is ask them one question. So the last World War, what was it over again?
Yeah, exactly.
Done. Fucking
what were we doing that
done.
over?
What? It starts with a G, doesn't it? Pretty sure it starts with a G. Fucking. I'm just trying to plant seeds. No, go ahead.
Called amimut, which in English means deliberate ambiguity. For decades, Israel has conducted itself under complete nuclear ambiguity, basically operating in complete secrecy. It's really not a question whether or not Israel has a nuclear arsenal. It's probably one of the worst kept secrets in the world. Even though they have refused to confirm or deny, several international bodies recognize Israel as one of the few countries with nuclear capabilities, and that's without all the whistleblowers and politicians outright admitting that they do indeed have nuclear weapons. Israel doesn't have nuclear power plants, but it does have a nuclear research center with a nuclear reactor, a pretty big one, based in the city of Dominion. Now, Israel doesn't allow the International Atomic Energy Agency to investigate them. Instead, they have the United States come in and send inspectors who have to announce their arrival in advance. And there's even stories from the Seymour Hersh book, which is a great read, by the way. I really recommend it. About Israelis building a fake control center on top of a real one underground. There are reports of Israel have conducted nuclear tests as early as 1979 during the Bella incident, which many experts believe was a joint nuclear test between South Africa and Israel. Ever since Israel was established, its principal objective was fairly clear. It cannot afford to lose a single war. And so Israel's nuclear policy is fairly simple in that sense, as it is based off of a biblical passage from Judges 16:30. Israelite Judge Samson, who pushes apart the pillars of the Philistine temple, bringing the roof down, killing himself and thousands of Philistines along with him who had captured him, and mocking him, crying out, "Let me die with the Philistines." And so the earliest threat of the Samson option was during the third day of the Yom Kippur War, where the Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir ordered an Israeli airstrike planes and missiles to go on alert. And when Israel was desperate and losing the war against Egypt and Syria, there was significant evidence. In fact, there's a memo here from Henry Kissinger. Kissinger was shitting his pants. And so was Nixon. Because they had the one woman prime minister, Gold Meir. I'm not sure if you believe this, but the JCS felt that Israel's program if Israel's program becomes known, we should be in a position to say that we did everything in our power to prevent Israel from going nuclear. JCS felt that we should try to stop Israel's missile production and use the Phantoms as leverage.
So wait, you saying Kissinger actually tried to stop Israel's nuclear program?
They were going to use nuclear weapons on the third day of the Yom Kippur War.
Oh, shit. Oh, this is 67.
They made the explicit threat of using to prevent Israel from going.
Oh, so this isn't the first time where they've threatened to just bomb the shit out of their own country.
Right.
Holy fuck.
President Nixon, that Israel had been threatening them that they would be, quote, going nuclear if they didn't immediately airlift supplies. In fact, it's also worth mentioning that so they needed those Phantoms really badly. They're basically like alert aircraft. I gotta talk to like Scott Ritter or something about this, but like they bank on like infinite weapon supplies from the United States,
right?
And this was a case of like explicit like nuclear blackmail. Like, we're gonna fucking blow everything up if you don't give us. That's basically essentially like just like how the mafia operates. Israel's nuclear
that's
program.
That's kind of like
why
you're saying one of the reasons that we continue to provide them weapons and support is because they are crazy enough to fucking destroy themselves.
That's how I think that's how Joe Biden feels right now. I feel like they sort of
See,
feel
and
like
this is like part of the like Christian Zionist thing. Is like on the one hand, like you should be categorically against a country that's willing to like erase itself and millions of people with it. And on the other hand, these Christian Zionists want the second coming of Christ. So they think that that's like a shortcut, right? Am I reading this right? That
no,
like
they're trying to facilitate the Armageddon and end times.
yeah. So okay, so
it's man-made Armageddon.
Are we crazy enough to think that they have an incentive to be like, well, if he's going to launch a nuclear weapon, at least we have the second coming of Christ, right? So that's worth, 8 million, 10 million people. Not a huge deal. Like
that's the weirdest part of it all. It's like
all the Jews are supposed to die in the Bible. Or like a certain amount of Jews.
Okay,
yeah,
I don't know all the
that's
details.
The most awkward part of this whole fucking thing.
I don't know either.
Why are y'all supporting this? Why are y'all not weird about these people supporting this?
Yeah,
because they have very alternative motives.
It's like the people know that it's like the Christian Zionists, like if the second coming means that all the Jews die, then what? This is like two enemies that are like friendly with each other because they both want the same thing until they don't. Like
this is literally threatening a Holocaust. This is
weird.
Oh my god, that's brilliant. That's a brilliant clapback. You can be like, oh, you're Christian and you support Israel, so you support genocide then. Sweaty.
Stinky. To the JFK assassination. Okay, this is a whole different rabbit hole that I didn't even touch. Due to a lot of the escalated tensions with Israel's Prime Minister Ben-Gurion. And so we find ourselves at a point again where tensions are extremely high with Israel in a desperate situation. And we're seeing Israeli politicians and pundits already considering the nuclear option as if it wasn't already bad enough. It's also important to note, this minister was not suspended because he suggested nuclear weapons. He was suspended for admitting that they have nuclear weapons.
Two, the Israelis haven't asked us to get involved. They asked us to give them equipment. Number three, they have their own arsenal, which they never admit. And I'm saying to you this, I'm telling you the truth. Sometimes it's tough. If Israel is going to face annihilation, you think they have those nukes in there to collect dust? I'm not even encouraging anything be done. I'm not even saying nuke them, nuke them, nuke them. I am saying Iran needs to understand, and Hezbollah needs to understand, that if you think you're going to wipe out these people, you're not. And so we have to deal with reality. And reality is...
This is Mark Levin. Does he actually think...
He sounds fucking insane. I cannot believe, like, people who just so openly talk about, oh yeah, well, they should know that nukes are on the table, should be just ripped off the fucking stage and been like, go home, never show your face back here again. We don't need any of your bullshit. Like, psychopaths. Unprecedented psychopaths. I can't get over how fucking crazy these people are.
What, you just don't want us to...
Our nukes are collecting dust. Jesus Christ.
Don't want them to...
Won't somebody please think of the nuclear weapons?
Think about the nukes, man.
But America's involved in this. America, I said they're going to drop them. In my opinion, they might. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm the only one bringing this up. I'm not even encouraging it. But if you're a country that has that kind of weaponry, and your people are going to be slaughtered as they were, except this time totally destroyed, they need to be thinking about all their options.
Like the Samson option.
And my guess is they are. I don't know. So when we go on TV and say, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? They're surrounded. They're going to wipe them out. We can't send troops. We can't. Fine. But if I'm the president or prime minister of Israel, I got to think it all through. All of it.
One of the reasons that developing some sort of progress in the whole Mideastern relationship, defusing the Palestinian issue and so forth, is that the greatest danger perhaps in the future of nuclear war is not going to come from the United States or the Soviet Union, both of whom, because of the great amount of nuclear power they have, fear its use and would be deterred easily. The greatest danger is going to come from a nation that is smaller, that is desperate, and that just wouldn't care. And this lets the genie out of the bottle. It's proliferation of nuclear weapons that concerns me at the present time and should concern the Russians, should concern the Americans. Looking at the Israelis, certainly I would think they would be more responsible than many others, but let us suppose the Libyans got it. Now they are a little crazy, I think. Certainly the leadership is.
Okay,
That is
I'm
why
sorry.
we've got to get this.
Yeah, he had to throw in the
sorry.
Libyan smear in there. He's a president. He has to.
Can we talk about how okay it was to say shit like that back in
they're
the
crazy,
day? Where they're
like-
just like this bunch of people over here, they're nuts.
I mean, South Africa still had an apartheid regime, so like, who knows
That's
the
what
shit
it
that
was.
was coming out of their mouths?
Certainly
Fucking
leadership
wild,
is.
man.
That is why
What does that even
we've got to
mean?
get this thing under control before it's proliferated out there, because the danger of a nuclear explosion then, which would spread worldwide, is simply unacceptable.
Insane.
Thoughts
Even
of
Nixon,
Jesus fucking
even Nixon was
Christ.
like, "Fuck that." So
Bro,
that's
when
insane. I
Nick-
cannot.
president.
Bro,
I can't
when
get
Nick-
used to how candidly and how openly these freaking idiots talk about nuclear war, and like they say, "Oh, I'm not suggesting anything," but they are. And when they use their words to communicate that, they're not just representing themselves. They're like using that time that they have on mainstream media to telegraph that message to hundreds of thousands of people. You know, maybe not so much on CNN, but like they are getting their message out and they're doing it deliberately. So these people are fucking crazy.
Bro, when
Guys,
the
even
original
Ronald
when the
fucking
original sin when the original sin is
original
out,
sinner.
like I'm sorry, you've gone into marbles free land, as only I say. I
We've
guess.
reached new boundaries. Once you move to the right of Ronald Reagan, what No, wait. So the right of Ronald Reagan is genocide. That's literally what it is. 1 degree away from genocide.
Just like hardcore,
Yo,
like
everybody-
he was right on the edge of it, and then genocide.
Y'all, just take this in for a second. Being to the right of Ronald Reagan is currently being called a communist. That's how fucked we are. We are that fucked. The radical communist regime is to the right of Ronald Reagan. That's
This is insane.
oh my
So even-
fucking god.
The point of this segment, just some thoughts to think about. I also want to remind people, famous Freemason Albert Pike in 1817.
Oh, he's a Freemason, brother.
Oh no, he's the Illuminati. Well, this is this is verifiable. I mean, this is the extent of like what I know about this. I've read like I maybe watched maybe like 2 videos on it, but Albert Pike back in the 1800s left a note and predicted 3 world wars. Just listen to this. A Freemason predicted this. Left behind a note after he died.
He predicted 3 world wars. The First World War, he said, must be brought about, and I'm quoting from Albert Pike. The First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the czars in Russia and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the British and German empires will be used to foment this war. He says, quote, the Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism will be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. He's now thinking about this Third World War, and it says that it will be caused by the differences between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the State of Israel, mutually destroy each other. That's what it says. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economic exhaustion.
When was that? That's crazy.
1800s. 1890? Yeah. I think you're right.
1890. He was talking about Zionism in 1890. That's crazy.
Zionism
I guess
existed back then. Dude, there was Israeli terrorists. Dude, before 1948, there was Israeli terrorist groups.
That's one
Well,
of
I know
those
Zionism,
rare...
but like that's like right around when like the beginning of Zionism, when it was like kind of created, wasn't it? It wasn't much before that. That's I don't know. I don't know enough about Zionism to know its history, but that seems like quite prescient. The guy was a soothsayer.
That's honestly one of those rare, like, is this all a fucking simulation moments where you're just like, what? Come on, fuck.
No, I think I feel like this
long ago.
What's that?
Between the connections of like the Christian Zionists and like the Freemason like prophecies and like the biblical prophecies, all of this shit, like it feels, whether or not it's like scripted already, they want it to be scripted. It feels like they're really pushing some sort of like end game apocalypse. Maybe I'm paranoid.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would agree with that because I remember one of the reasons against Zionism and establishing the state of Israel was because people thought that trying to usher in the Messiah and the second coming and trying to create all these events was actually blasphemous and presumptuous on the part of like people trying to create that state. They're like, what are you doing? You're trying to like make a shortcut to seeing God again, you know, like, and people were actually against it. So I don't know. It's crazy.
It's literally trying to facilitate the second coming of Christ.
It's wild. It's wild that that's like, it's really concrete evidence, I feel like, that there is a direct connection between like a religious agenda and like the political agenda.
Oh no, we're ruled by like literal like wackies. I think it's bad. I think it's
like we saw last week with freaking Li Fong, where he's like, yeah, there's 40 or 50 people in Congress who are all Christian Zionists, and at some point you have to just kind of figure out that it's like really is like a religious agenda with a lot of the decision making, especially when it comes to Israel. So it's freaking wild to me. It takes a lot to wrap my head around it. Like, we're supposed to be separating church and state, but yet like so obvious when it comes to Israel that it's very much religiously motivated. So
I'm sorry, Christians. The Anunnaki are not coming back. Give up. It's okay.
You want me to?
Kissinger also said in 2012 that Israel has 10 years left to exist.
In 2012, he said that?
Yes, 1 second.
So, I mean, it's 2023, so he's like pretty much right on schedule because it looks like it's imploding one way or another. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen to Israel a year from now, but...
Bro, is this all in a fucking Asana or something? What the hell? Like... Oh, right on time. We got to do the thing.
I feel like people at this point
so goofy
know that the current state of Israel in its form can't really exist much longer.
No, it's politically
so fascist and so freaking violent and like so fucking crazy.
A New York Post group columnist reported earlier this month that she's a former U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger said Israel will not exist in 10 years. Reported to me, Henry Kissinger had stated, and I quote the statement word for word, "In 10 years, there will be no more Israel." In 2012. So I feel like there's like there has to be some level of awareness. Like, you can't tell me that the CIA, like the intelligence agencies, are not one step ahead and in some form or another, like, recognize the political instability and like how much of a like mess that Israel is, that it's going to eventually fall apart, or at least like they seem to like have to be they have an understanding of where this is heading.
Well, yeah. So then the question is, I guess, because my understanding of why we're so invested in Israel is mainly because it's a military outpost, right? So if the U.S. or other countries that support Israel see the instability on the horizon, then they're going to be like, fuck it, we'll see who else we can take out with us. That's how important Israel is to everybody, like the US, that they're more interested in going to war with Iran and Russia and China and all this stuff. And in the second coming of Christ, maybe, and do all this crazy shit than to let Israel implode on itself. So, I mean, that's kind of where I don't know. There's so many different things to look at with that regard, but the
many different
motivation is strange to me.
We're dealing with
So you guys think
a whole different monster.
So you guys think this Henry chap might have some insider info, do you?
Henry chap? Which one are you? Which Henry?
Kissinger.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. This
I was doing a meme.
He's a Freemason too. He knows. So like there has to be something scripted here. There has to be something going where they at least acknowledge the fact that Israel's destruction is at its end, and perhaps they're trying to navigate the widths of that.
Well, it's like
result.
I guess during the Oslo Accords, I don't know when that was, but that was like the last chance at a two-state solution, probably. And now, like, things are so heated at this point, and like Israel is so overtly fucking crazy and fascist. And I'll get into it in my segment in a bit here, but like, I don't know enough about Israel from 20, 30 years ago to really judge on whether Israel is worse than what it was 20, 30 years ago, or if what it is today was like always going to happen. And like, this was like the eventual thing, and there was nothing we could do to stop it.
Yeah. All right. You guys ready to get into some class? Propaganda class, folks. It's time for propaganda class 101.
So let me see.
Can I make a joke before we start?
Yes.
I just wonder, like, in 10 years or like 5 years, if we'll see Netanyahu being like, I just need some credit.
I mean,
I know, right? To the next thing. What the fuck?
Guys.
How do you beg on corporate news? That's fucked up.
What is this stupid school?
No!
The sound.
What'd you do? Oh my god.
Time for school, time for class. Welcome, folks, to Propaganda Hasbara 101.
Here we go.
So courtesy of Greg of this fire meme.
Click on that image.
Go, huh?
Full screen that bitch.
Yeah, full screen.
Go rip it off his Twitter, please, and share it. But so for this segment, I just saw a lot of.
Make it bigger. Gotta make it bigger.
Make it bigger. I'll full screen this fucking shit.
But you can zoom in with just the. Here, let me. I can just share it.
You must.
I mean, what can I do? Like, I thought I was sharing. I thought I was zooming. You can't read that? You can read that.
I can't.
Really?
I can't read anything. Wait, what's happening to me? No, I'm kidding.
That's
fine. I'm sure that's
enormous.
Fine.
There we go.
Oh wait, I don't have it full screened here, so it's
anyway
small. Okay.
What I saw a lot of kind of promising stuff going on as far as people combating some of the propaganda that we've been exposed to the last few weeks. So, and I saw a lot of kind of similarities between what we saw going on in Ukraine and before that. So I kind of wanted to highlight some of these similarities so we could kind of laugh a little bit at some of this absurdity and
fucking
be aware
Hamas!
of be aware
Hamas!
of what kind of fucking Hamas.
Hamas!
It's Hamas!
So let's take a look at this stuff.
Human shields.
So I want to start off with this clip. So I'm gonna play this really quick. Let's play this first.
Someone's gonna clip Greg.
Let me just highlight one thing from that real quick.
Huh?
1 second.
Oh, you wanted to play something else?
No.
Right, play your... What you doing? Oh.
Hamas beheads babies. Hamas puts babies in ovens. Hamas uses babies in combat armor. The babies will grow up to be Hamas, so it's better to kill them now. The residential neighborhoods are Hamas. The babies are Hamas. The women are Hamas. They voted for Hamas, therefore they are Hamas. There are no innocents. There are only Hamas.
I love how you use fucking I love how you used Wojaks for that shit. Oh my
It
god.
fits. It fits.
Because you know what? It's gonna trigger Chuds extra hard because they use Wojaks all the time. So like, no, I'm not the Wojak, I'm the Chad. Meh. Oh, I love that shit.
So you guys remember those kidnap posters that we saw earlier at the protest? I think those were like on the other side of it, but I think a lot of people probably might have seen this video recently, but I wanted to start off with this and then kind of kick off this segment. So I'm gonna play it, a little bit profanity. Oh, is it not playing it? Of course.
Yeah, if it's a video, I'll just play it.
All right, you play it then.
Yeah.
Until I'm wired. That's, oh my god. HDR.
Civilians and officers down. These are
Yes, it's again with the Mac. I don't know what it is.
Please stop ripping posters down. These are innocent civilians in Israel. Fuck you, fuck Israel, bitch.
That's right, bitch. Fuck yes.
Yeah.
These are our family members. We have family there. Fuck you, bitch. Fuck you. And Israel. Don't rip down these posters. Fuck you in that public.
Can you imagine being any more of a pussy? Like,
Can you play it again? Can you play it again?
We're like defending genocide over here. They're ripping down posters. Let's get that straight. So then not only that, they're kidnapped posters of children 6,000 miles away. They're kidnapped. They're in a different country. There's nothing you can do about it. But okay, don't rip down my posters. My posters.
My only critique is if I were...
Play it one more time. These ladies are my heroes. I love it.
Fuck you, bitch.
Fuck you. These are our family members. We have family there. Fuck you, bitch. Fuck you too, bitch. Fuck you. And Israel. Don't rip down these posters.
Don't rip down these posters. What are you doing?
So really quick backstory. The New York Post actually did a little bit of a background on these girls. So apparently their dad was in Lebanon.
These women. Matt, what the fuck's his name is? What on TikTok?
Iglesias?
No.
The shit lib?
The guy who the shit lib vaccinated guy who's like he tried to dox this. I don't know. Someone else did. They tried to dox these. No.
Damn. Okay.
They tried to.
I was gonna say
they tried to dox.
No, but what happened was like the New York Post did an article on them anyway, and their dad was in Lebanon during fucking 2006. So like they have like a direct relation of like dealing with like Israeli like bombardments and shit. So they have like a personal reason to have a beef with them. But yeah, they're Lebanese, so they're aware of the confrontation.
So there you go.
But to get into
So there you go. It's not like they have no connection to this.
No, but let's take a look at. So I wanted to show that like the actual propaganda campaign, so you can actually see this is the kidnap thing, and these are the posters. Recognize these posters, so like people can print them out and just print them out, and these are all like Israeli people that they put all over the place. So this is like the propaganda that's being put all over. I think that's New York, but it's like all over the place. So you might have seen them already, but this is like, I don't know how many there are. I think the amount of hostages, because they're not technically kidnapped, they're hostages, or they're not technically, they're the prisoners of war, I guess it's the technical word. But like, this is the actual propaganda that's being put out, and that's what they were tearing down. So it's good for that for a minute. Let's see. I guess you could play.
Like they made these themselves. Like I don't think a lot of these people.
No, it's an actual like propaganda thing. Like
yeah, they got it from a website. Yeah,
bro.
Like,
imagine
this
if,
organization, this freaking AstroTurfed organization. I'm sure it's like just.
Imagine if one of those photos had some fucking watermarks on it or some shit.
like Alamy or freaking like what's the other one? Freaking just like stock images.
Here's how you can help Israel. You can participate in a PR campaign to make the American but believe that that these hostages are the top priority right now. After 10,000 people just got fucking carpet bombed.
Dude, those
So
ladies are
play the
base, but
Fetterman clip.
those ladies are base, but like here's the move, right? You don't just rip the posters down. After you rip them down, you replace them with the Communist Manifesto, and then you just stand back and watch what happens. That's the move. All right.
But after those ladies, so that happened a few days ago, and after that happened, Fetterman put all those kidnap posters all over his fucking wall.
He printed the whole fucking PDF.
You didn't see this? You didn't see this?
He printed the whole PDF.
Play it. Dude, look at this fucking idiot. This entire fucking wall.
He doesn't know any of these people. He doesn't know anyone.
But yeah, that's the entire Hasbara campaign right there. He just printed it out and put it inside his office. He should have to register as a foreign agent after pulling shit like this, but he's straight up doing Israeli propaganda right now.
John,
if you walk into his fucking Senate office, he's doing Hasbara.
John,
like live action Hasbara.
John Fetterman, am I right?
Yeah, exactly.
Guys? Yeah.
John MK Ultra Fetterman.
Dude,
but,
at
yeah,
this
you can
point,
tell he's completely compromised.
Dude, at this point, I think John Fetterman, no, he's just suffering full-blown cyber psychosis. He's got an implant in there. He's got some tech, you know. He's
no, they
that's
MK
what's
Ultra
going
him,
on.
100%.
I strongly believe that when he had that like psychiatric thing, like a couple years ago, or like shortly after he became senator, like they totally MK Ultra'd him, and that's why after that you saw him wearing like sweatpants and shit to the freaking Senate all the time, or Congress, I guess Congress. But yeah, I totally think that he's like freaking Manchurian candidate type. But anyway, to go back, I remember earlier we were talking about like different demographics and how they're impacted by the propaganda we're exposed to. So let me make this a little bit bigger. But this is from Axios, so it's as mainstream as it gets, more or less. But you can see the people who support Israel, silent greatest generation, the baby boomers are basically the same at about 86%. So I've seen it a little bit higher than that, but between support Israel and unsure, you're talking about over 95%, right? And then by the time you get to like millennials and Gen Z, it's like 50-50, people who support Israel, people who support Palestine. So, and one of the reasons I wanted to show that clip in the beginning with those two ladies taking on the posters is it shows like that the younger generation is like, you even heard her saying at the end, like, get that propaganda out of here. Like, I'm not there. They're much more resistant to the propaganda machine. And you can see, I used to shit a lot on TikTok over the last few years, like just because it has so much, there's a really ugly side to TikTok, but there is a good side of how like people, intelligent Zoomers and millennials posting, pretty good content and being pretty good about disseminating fact from fiction and figuring out ways to put out small clips that resonate with people and kind of wake people up.
So I started using it because you can condense the information.
I know. I'm still like, maybe it's me being like a millennial and not totally like understanding the whole short form thing yet, but I feel like there's still.
I don't either.
There's still something. I don't. It's to take something like explaining the extent of the Israeli apartheid in like 3 or 4 minutes just seems like you're not really doing it justice, So that's why I'm like, I think it's good that, and I also think that it's problematic to encourage people to take in information into 4-minute bites. When you're getting people exposed to this kind of like ADD kind of like stimuli in their face, I don't think that's like necessarily the best way to get your information. But I think the jury's out on that. And again, like the fact that you can see in this graph, okay, millennials and Gen Z are not watching mainstream media. They're not watching CNN. They're not watching Fox. They're not watching MSNBC. They're watching YouTube. They're watching TikTok. They're watching Snapchat, whatever.
Yeah.
So the point is that you can see that they're there's a direct correlation, I think, that you can take from this graph and see that the influence of social media has in different demographics, or the lack thereof.
So I kind of get where you're coming from. I feel like it's more along the lines of like, at least this is how I interpret it. They're trying to catch people and then like push them to learn more on their own. It's more of a like, here's the really super important. And I feel like also it's like part of it.
Interesting. I didn't think of it like that.
It's a filter, yeah.
And part of it is also like, you got to understand these people, like a lot of these people, they didn't have to deal with dial-up. We all dealt with dial-up. We all dealt with AOL, right? So like they've never known the joy of waiting 5 minutes for a website to load, or like a day for your fucking song to download, right? Not that I've ever downloaded, Lars.
yeah, Metallica during freaking, what was the name of that? I forget, but yeah, I remember them being so pissed during when BitTorrent started getting big, and like it was Napster. That's right.
Napster bad.
He was so butthurt about Napster. Yeah.
The funniest part about that is he admitted later he actually had no idea, like he didn't understand the internet. He was like, I thought they were actually stealing the music. And I'm like, you fucking boomer. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, they were actually taking it and making royalties off the stolen music. They
were taking it away.
So, Greg, did you include this Vouch clip? Did you want to play that? I didn't.
Oh, the boosh.
Oh, did you put that Vouch clip in there, Himbo?
We got Hasbara in here.
I think I see a Vouch clip. Yeah, I guess there's a Vouch clip that was put in here.
Hold on.
Let's listen to this idiot.
Is that the super long one? Oh yeah. Okay, I got a couple notes on that. I'm just trying to find where I put that. There it is. Okay. I'm back. All right, let's watch Vouch.
So speaking of Hasbara, yeah, like, okay, so I guess a little bit of a preface of why we're bringing in bread tubers into this. So we've talked a little bit about this, but like I strongly believe, and there's a lot of evidence that because Zoomers and millennials basically are completely checked out to mainstream media, that you have this like bread tube contingent, and basically the right as well. Like you have like the Daily Caller, types as well, that are being influenced by the deep state and just disseminating information that's basically like, oh, well, if you're not going to get it off of MSNBC and CNN, then we're going to kind of influence these personalities on YouTube to basically put out the same message to Zoomers, so they grow up in the environment just eating and breathing neoliberalism. So I don't know. I haven't seen this clip, so I don't know what we're in for.
There is a direct gateway from Vouch to like little kids. There is like a lot.
Well, it's like we were talking. Oh, you're okay. Yeah.
Well, that too.
I knew what you meant, but just like the context surrounding this person, you're just like, oh fuck. Well, that can go both ways, and both ways are objectively correct. Okay.
Was there a particular time that we wanted to play on this clip?
Yeah, do you have like timestamps? I'm not gonna watch 45 minutes of this douchebag.
I was hoping we'd watch the whole 45 actually. No. I think
we just laugh.
I think it's just the beginning, and I can tell you when to start.
All right, well, we'll just play it. We'll play a little bit of it.
Are asking like what I think could be done to fix the Israel-Palestine. There is no solution that's going to make people happy. There is no way to get. You know what the Palestinian people deserve? All of it back. Do you know what Israeli citizens deserve? To not be kicked out of the land they were born in. These two desires are completely irreconcilable. There is literally no way to make it.
That's all you gotta. That's all. Sorry, I should have done just.
I mean, I guess that is pretty much it, huh? That's
but
all
like, that's all you gotta listen to, because like, here's the thing. With the people who are cosplaying as like further, the people who are cosplaying as further on the left, cosplaying, they can't support Israel. Okay, so one thing people need to bear in mind when it comes to BreadTube, which might at least help it make a little more sense. It helped me make a lot more sense of it. What is the action that is going to be inspired? What is the feeling that's going to be inspired from this information that's being provided? So look beyond what their what their stance is. Look beyond what their opinion on a thing is, and think about like, what is this going to make someone feel? What is this going to inspire in terms of action. And so Vosh can cosplay that he's like, rah, yeah, you know what? Palestinians, they deserve X, Y, and Z. But at the end of the day, what is he inspiring here? What he's inspiring is demoralization, because he's saying, you know what? This issue is never going to get fixed. There's never going to be a solution. It's just always going to be this conflict. And as we say here, you know, always ask yourself who benefits. So you'll see this from a lot of the bread tubers on the left, where except for Destiny, who's just like, yeah, fucking kill them all or whatever.
He's straight up just.
I love like
this
big F for fascist on his chest, not even hiding it.
Yeah, but like,
find Israel on a map.
I almost included that clip, and I was like,
like, so you'll see this a lot with the BreadTube cosplayers, where it's like, yeah, they might be saying things that you agree with, and they might agree with your positions, but what is their take on what's to be done about it, right? And a lot of the time you'll see this whole, like, it's never going to inspire some action that's going to take you in a direction that may actually resolve the issue. It's all like, well, you know, it's complicated, which is hilarious because it's the least complicated.
It's like the thing where liberals are always like, the suffering is really the part that they really cling on to. They don't really care about the rest of it. As long as they're suffering, like, hey, it's gonna suck either way. Let's just go with like one of the sucky options. Like, I don't know. It just seems to me that he is just shepherding people into establishment kind of way of thinking.
It kind of reminds me of something that I learned when I first did the therapy thing, before I became a master of psychology, that is. So my therapist way back in the day said to me, you know, when your partner or someone in your life hurts you and they apologize, you should follow up with, I accept the apology. What is going to change? And that kind of reminds me of this in a way, insofar as like, there's a lot of lip service. There's a lot of like empathy, as much as they can pretend to have, because we all know it's fucking cognitive anyway. Yeah. But you really got to think of like, okay, but what are they talking about doing about this? Like, they feel so bad about it. It's such a complicated, horrible, terrible thing.
They only feel bad about it because the poll numbers are bad.
What are they telling their giant base of people to do about the terrible thing? And they're never going to be telling their giant base, not even a son, they're never going to be telling their giant base of people to do anything about the terrible things. They're not going to be like, here's what you can do here, here's what you can do here. You know, these are some...
No, to the contrary, they're telling them to pledge their vote to Biden a year in advance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like Vaj's mod, who was like, oh, yeah, he's supporting genocide, but you got to support him anyway.
Yeah, yes, Biden's actively supporting a genocide, but you should vote for him anyway, because Trump would be a worse genocider.
Like, that's just brainworms.
Like, the fact that we're at the lesser of two genocides is fucking... I don't know what... I don't know words. I don't know what...
The lesser of two nuclear wars.
Well, and that was actually, it's funny because that was like one of the arguments is like, you know, the genocide would be worse under Trump. It's like, there's no spectrum. There's genocide and there's not genocide.
Yeah, there's no nuance here. Every single other issue, you motherfuckers want it to be black and white, and whenever it's something objectively bad that you can safely paint as black, you're like, oh, well, you know, there's all these things. It's kind of gray. Jesus, fuck yourselves. God damn it. Okay, play the clip.
We got to bring this in for context. Thank you for
smoking.
What?
This is an old movie. Like, I don't know if people have seen it like in a
show. I love this movie.
Great. It's a great movie. Thank you for smoking. It was probably like 20. But anyway, the reason I picked out this clip is because one thing to keep in mind as we're going forward with this, and have really internalized from this movie and from being in sales for, is that the goal of the propagandists is not to argue that their point of view is right, just to make sure that you scrutinize their opposition view or that the other comes off as wrong. Like, their goal is not to win, it's just to make you take the L. So let's listen to this clip, that being said.
So, what happens when you're wrong?
Oh, Joey, I'm never wrong.
But you can't always be right.
Well, if it's your job to be right, then you're never wrong.
But what if you are wrong?
Okay, let's say that you're defending chocolate and I'm defending vanilla. Now, if I were to say to you, vanilla is the best flavor ice cream, you'd say,
No, chocolate is.
exactly. But you can't win that argument. So, I'll ask you. So you think chocolate is the end-all and be-all of ice cream, do you?
It's the best ice cream. I wouldn't order any other.
Oh, so it's all chocolate for you, is it?
Yes, chocolate is all I need.
Well, I need more than chocolate. And for that matter, I need more than vanilla. I believe that we need freedom and choice when it comes to our ice cream, and that, Joy Naylor, that is the definition of liberty.
But that's not what we're talking about.
Ah, but that's what I'm talking about.
But you didn't prove that vanilla was the best.
I didn't have to. I proved that you're wrong, and if you're wrong, I'm right.
But you still didn't convince me.
It's that I'm not after you. I'm after them.
I forgot that the last line there is also really important to keep in mind. It's like they're not trying to like win over the hearts and minds of people who have more than two brain cells to rub together. They're going for the lowest common denominator. They don't care that the person who they're arguing with knows that they're full of shit because they're only
obedient workers.
Exactly.
Pick your
I
ice
just
cream.
like to
Is
say
it
that
green ice cream, orange ice cream, or blue ice cream.
I mean, it's all irrelevant because cookie dough is the best ice cream, and that's just the correct answer. But I just like to say that Aaron Eckhart is the one man in Hollywood where he doesn't need a beard because his chin is the beard. It's incredibly impressive.
He does have a. He
Holy
does have
shit.
like quite the what's that called? The chin cap, the crimson chin.
If I had that, I wouldn't grow this if I had that shit. I just take the beard, right?
So just a
Anyway.
little bit more context. I posted this today. I found this just a small clip from a 2014 documentary. I'll speed this up. I'm not going to watch the whole thing, but just a little bit of lesson on IDF propaganda from 2004 on IDF propaganda. Listen to this.
Israel is really fighting war on two fronts. The first,
I listen to this very first line.
Israel is really fighting war on two fronts. The first is a military campaign being waged in the occupied territories against the Palestinian people. And the second is a PR campaign being waged here in the U.S. through the American media.
That's exactly what's happening.
It's exactly what's happening. Yes,
it's
100%.
always a two-front war, and you're playing, and obviously they're losing on both fronts. This is why Israel's very desperate.
What's funny is I used to up until this conflict on October 7th, I always kind of believed that the U.S. really was the most propagandized nation. No, Israel. 10
it's
times
Israel.
worse.
It's Israel. Yeah.
To ensure continued support for Israel's occupation. Alon Pincus, Consul General for Israel in New York and the coordinator of Israel's PR efforts, was recently quoted as saying, "We are currently in a conflict with the Palestinians, and engaging in a successful PR campaign is part of winning the conflict." So you could say that in addition to the military occupation of the West Bank and Gaza, Israel is also involved in an attempt to ideologically occupy the American media.
American news coverage is influenced by a complex set of institutional relationships. These influences can be thought of as a series of filters through which the news must travel before it emerges in the voices of news anchors. To understand how American news media report on the Middle East conflict, we need to understand how these institutional filters operate. Among the most important of these filters are the business interests of the corporations that own the mass media, interests that extend beyond the United States and across the globe to the Middle East. The economic interests of media owners are shared by political elites, politicians and policymakers who form a second filter. These political elites have the power to access and influence mainstream media and are themselves part of a system dominated by corporate money and interests. The strategic importance of the Middle East to these two groups is reflected in media coverage of the region and of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. A third filter, Israel's own public relations efforts, further affects the coverage. The government of Israel employs some of the largest American public relations firms as image consultants to coordinate its political and media campaigns. 9 Israeli consulates help implement these PR campaigns by developing relationships with journalists and monitoring media outlets. Scores of private American organizations, both Christian and Jewish, reiterate the official line and organize grassroots opposition to any coverage deemed unfavorable to Israel.
We don't stand a chance.
The most important of these.
Fuck.
That's all. Those are all the demons we're up against. by the way.
Is APAC.
And that's the third level of
No, I'm
demons.
not
Like
saying
there's two
dude,
other
I'm saying-
levels before that.
I'm saying fucking me, you fucking whatever fucking like Zionist wants to come in here and say like, oh, you're talking about the Jews? No, I'm talking strictly about the Zionists.
Okay, but like that's a really good that's a really good example too, because going back to that "thank you for smoking" clip, you can see how a lot of these tricks are used every day. The popular one being, do you condemn Hamas? Well, it's like, okay, but we're not.
Yeah, that's
talking about-
obviously a talking point, a slogan from freaking one of these lobbyists.
Yeah, it's like okay, but we're not talking about Hamas. We're talking about the genocide of Palestinians, and it's like it doesn't matter. They're trying to be right, and they're trying to make you wrong. So if you don't condemn Hamas, and they get you into that little trap, then you're wrong and they're right. But here's the thing: this is the clever part. This is the clever part, because if you do condemn Hamas, they're right again. Because it's like, okay,
exactly.
so then you agree with us.
Now you're at a place where you are. If you condemn Hamas, I look at it as not a zero something, like, or I guess I do look at it as zero something. Like, if you're condemning Hamas, you're automatically taking the side of Israel in that circumstance, because there's so much of a power imbalance that you're not really. You're just giving Israel what they want by being like, oh, I condemn Hamas.
I'm not gonna. I just say the only thing I say to that is, I just say like, oh fuck this piece of shit. I followed him for his COVID
This guy's
takes,
been
and then
pissing me off all month. I hate.
Did you
see? Same. He is
Did you see
triggering
what?
the fuck out of me? I hope I hope the next time he makes toast, it's slightly burnt.
Did you
I will
see
say that.
that Dan Cohen tried to get a debate with him, and even Kim was like, I'll moderate this debate, and Brett's like, no, I won't do it. Like, he's not the guy. Like, I won't do it. Like, just
No.
Like we were talking about in the beginning of the show, like the cognitive dissonance sets in. I think people like Brett Weinstein are perfectly happy. Like,
they're pulling the hotels.
Pushing their
yeah,
exactly.
Hotels.
Exactly. He's the hotels.
All the people who got COVID right now, they're all pulling the same hotels trick that they're doing with Israel and Palestine, because they can't talk about it. They know they can't talk about it.
It really is. He's fucking hotels, dude. He's fucking hotels. That's funny.
He's fucking hotels.
Okay,
it's
so
ridiculous.
And just as a sidebar, a
Really
lot of people. One of the things,
like if you support Hamas, then you are not against genocide.
It doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all. Hamas isn't committing a genocide. First of all, that's another out of context thing. Hamas isn't committing a genocide. We're talking about genocide in the context of Palestinians. You have 200 people lost. You maybe lost Palestine lost 10 times the amount already. You already have a 10-to-1 exchange rate.
Yeah.
So you have to decide when enough is enough, and when
I
you
just
get
don't
to call
understand.
something a genocide. That looks like a genocide.
It's just so wild that it's like, who's the ones with air superiority, or the only ones with jets in the sky who can drop bombs? Is that Hamas? Is it Hamas jets that are dropping bombs? Oh, it's Israel jets. So then the fuck is this? I don't know how people like do the mental gymnastics to be like it's Hamas dropping bombs when, like, it's just such a weird fucking thing to say.
I saw a really good quote, but I forgot to retweet it because I got distracted by my cat. Other news at 11 on ADHD, but they said like this is a really weird war. Are wars normally where one side can turn off the electricity and the water for the other side?
And that's the other thing is like technically is it even a war because it's like Palestine isn't recognized as a state in I don't think it's universally recognized. And on top of that, it's occupied, so it'd be more like a civil war or something, wouldn't it? So
I don't even know what like it's so weird. It's like I'll be right back, guys. I'm gonna go break into my neighbor's house and I'm gonna take a shit on the floor. And then when he tries to kick me out, I'm gonna say,
this is my house.
Do I have the right to defend myself? Do you condemn your dog for biting me? Jesus Christ. This doesn't work in any analysis.
The toilet for getting clogged
Well, it
again.
goes back to what we've been saying for the last couple of weeks: is that every
the
fucking
toilets.
all the Hasbara that they push out is projection. That whenever they're fucking trying to say it's Hamas or Palestinians who are doing it, 9 times out of 10 or 10 times out of 10, it's Israel doing the exact thing. You know, we saw this with, and I don't get to it as we go on, but actually, you want to play some of the CNN clips? So
Yeah, so like this is
to
like
be
a
clear,
lot of like yeah.
this kind of ties in. So what I wanted to show with these clips is that even against the Hasbara machine's best like efforts, that Israel is fucking up so bad and indiscriminately killing so many thousands of children and women and innocent people that even the AIPAC spokesperson, he used to fucking work for AIPAC, Wolf Blitzer, like none of these people can freaking keep up the narrative anymore.
No. It's
so
like it's literally like shit, we can't do this.
They
God
really
damn.
can't. So I have a few clips here. We're going to start off with this Wolf Blitzer here, but like I'll just let you guys listen. Like pay attention to how fucking how the Israel spokesperson, the military spokesperson, just rattles off stuff like it's no big deal. And even Wolf Blitzer, who again used to work for fucking AIPAC, is like, wait a second, this isn't making sense. Like let's get back to Earth and be humans for 2 seconds. So I'll let you play it.
There is some like and even in like a lot of the language they use, like of course they're like they can't like outright be like cheering this on, and in a sense, yeah, they are forced to like address this in a way that's like somewhat objective.
They're kind of couching.
They make it look objective, but in their language, there's still like little bits of Hasbara that you can kind of point out.
Yes, I can.
Mm-hmm.
We were focused again on our target, a senior commander, Wolf, and we'll be updating you with more data as the hour moves ahead.
But even if that Hamas commander was there amidst all those Palestinian refugees who are in that Jabalia refugee camp, Israel still went ahead and dropped a bomb there, attempting to kill this Hamas commander, knowing that a lot of innocent civilians, men, women, and children, presumably would be killed. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's not what you're hearing, Wolf. We're focused on this commander. Again,
No.
Narrator, that was what he was hearing.
Yeah.
many
That's
Israelis.
exactly what he's hearing.
We're doing everything we can. It's a very complicated battle space.
Wow.
There could be infrastructure there. There could be tunnels there. We're still looking into it, and we'll give you more data as the hour moves ahead.
Yeah, we'll look at it later after we killed hundreds of people.
Know that there are a lot of refugees, a lot of innocent civilians, men, women, and children in that refugee camp as well, right?
This is the tragedy of war, Wolf. I mean,
but he's got like this blank
tragedy of war. These shameless.
As you know, we've been saying for days, move south. Civilians that are not involved with Hamas, please move south.
I'm just trying to get a little bit more information. You knew there were civilians there. You knew there were refugees, all sorts of refugees. But you decided to still drop a bomb on that refugee camp, attempting to kill the Hamas commander. By the way, was he killed?
I can't confirm yet. There'll be more.
No, you got to play the rest of it. You got to play the rest of it because he
was killed. About the civilians there, we're doing everything we can to minimize. I'll say it again. Sadly, they are hiding themselves within
when you paused it right
civilian population. And again, we are doing this stage by stage, and we're going to go after every one of these terrorists who was involved in that heinous attack on the 7th of October. Wolf.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm having trouble hearing you, but let me move on. I assume you can still hear me.
Get this fucking asshole.
Yeah, like I'm having trouble hearing you. Like that's how they.
He looked like I've never seen Wolf Blitzer look like he's ready to freaking murder somebody. Like he was ready to freaking choke that guy out. But when you paused it, he was asking him like, did they get the commander? He says no, and then you can tell that there's somebody who's facing that spokesperson who's like, oh yeah, we killed him, and he's like, no, I mean we did get him. So like.
Yeah. Again, it's almost stage by stage, and we're going to hiding themselves.
Think that there was no commando, that they were just indiscriminately bombing.
About the civilian, everything we can to minimize. I'll say it again. Sadly, they are hiding themselves within civilian population, and again, we are doing this stage by stage, and we're going to go after every one of these terrorists who was involved in that.
Okay, so I just like to point out here. Stage by stage might be a not ideal choice of words there, sir. you know.
Yeah, it's kind of implying that this is going to escalate, huh?
Yeah.
Uh,
Also, when everybody's like calling this a certain thing, you don't want to be talking about different stages. It might like point them in a direction you don't want them to go. I don't know. Fuck.
yeah, exactly. Like,
So
get ready for the
they
next
use
stage.
words like solution, final solution, animals.
Well, so
referring to
that's
them as
another thing is
animals,
that
cockroaches, bugs. Yep, we're going to 8, y'all. So yeah,
okay,
stage
so
by stage.
to kind of be the devil's advocate a little bit is that the reason I'm playing these MSM clips and that they're actually kind of humanizing the Gazans and actually kind of describing these situations. I think that mainstream media to a degree, and we'll play Jake Tapper's clip in a second here, which kind of is the opposite. But to a degree, they are basically telling the Israeli state, like, you guys need to get your shit together and like tone it down a little bit. Like, we're not against Israel, but we want you guys to make it less obvious because we're having a hard time doing our jobs propagandizing our idiots who watch the TV when you guys are indiscriminately killing refugee camps. That's what the impression that I'm getting here. That again, we go back to that clip. They're not talking to the regular, like you and me, who are aware of it. They're talking to the people who are the decision makers, who are like, yo, you guys need to stop indiscriminately killing people to the degree that you are. That's kind of the impression I'm getting.
Also, they have to, like I said, they got to oppose Zion Dawn. They can't be on the same like page as him. Like liberals' brains will melt. Their TDS will kill them immediately.
They're worried about ratings. They're seeing these massive protests taking place worldwide. Obviously, they're going to know that's going to have some sort of reflection on their audience, and they're going to have to play the part a little bit. But I do think personally, it's interesting that they're willing to throw Israel under the bus on live TV. To me, I think
that's a big deal to me too.
But I'm sort of like with your line of thinking. Like I really I don't think that they're being 100% sincere in this. I don't think anyone should think that they're being sincere, but they're probably concerned for their own selves about how this looks because of just simply for the association. They don't want to be tied to that kind of.
Well, that's the other thing is like,
right,
what about?
It needs to look pretty. It needs to look nice. It needs to look sexy. If it can't look pretty, because genocide's not pretty. If they can't make it look pretty, it's not going to make enough money. So that's kind of the reality. Israel's on a self-destruction path. Anyway.
And I wonder to a degree if like Joyanne, who we'll hear in a second, Wolflitzer, and these people, like maybe they are confronting the reality. Maybe they've had to go home and like sleep on some of this stuff, and maybe they're like, you know, do I want to die? And my legacy, one of my last legacies was propping up this genocidal country. Like, I think these people are hopefully having these real conversations with themselves, trying to figure this stuff out, because this isn't just like a Trump election where they can just like brush it off and go stay in their freaking villa for the next 4 years. Like being on the side of genocide is going to have like put you in the history books as an absolute demon, you know? So
I hate to come off as
100%.
I hate to come off as a cynical prick here, but that's me to a core, so I'm going to do so. I think these motherfuckers are just worried about image.
Just ratings.
It's not even ratings. I think it's 100% image. Because, like, okay, so in the context of George Takei, for example, outside of the TDS brain melting that has inflicted these poor fucks, you know, he has some history with, you know, oppression in his family, with his heritage and all that. So he's not thinking like, oh, I empathize. He's thinking, oh, this is really not going to be a good look for me if I like go into this camp, because then everybody's going to think like, okay, well, why is he in this camp even though he went through X, Y, and Z? This is like branding. This is people going, okay, what is the best look for this? It's kind of
what side do we want to be on? How do we want to brand this incoming humanitarian disaster?
It's all let's play.
And as some people have said,
the brand. If the brand is not sexy, it's got to go. We got to make a brand. We got to make a nice, pretty brand out of this. genocide is not brandable.
And given these bombings are being
and to
done
be clear,
using our
we're
tax
not
dollars,
like
perhaps
supporting any of the necessarily rhetoric that these people are saying. As Gamer said in the chat, Joyanne Reed is questioning, but I don't trust her at all. We don't trust any of these fuckers. I'm just kind of giving a little bit of credit to credit's due and illustrating the point that propaganda machine from Israel's end is failing. It's not working.
They're all shitting.
we should ask some
I'm sorry,
questions.
they're all shitting
For
and
example,
farting. And that's it.
how does bombing a densely populated land strip filled 50% with children constitute self-defense? How does bombing hospitals, churches, mosques, and UN schools constitute self-defense?
Like, that's a fucking
Well, you
indictment.
say if Hamas fighters are hiding in the hospital using the civilians as human shields, okay, let's say they are. Are you arguing that flattening the hospital and killing newborns in their incubators and their moms in the NICU, cancer patients, someone with a broken leg, the doctors, nurses, and just the women and kids hiding in the hospital, that's not a war crime? Because you would be wrong, according to international law.
We fucking said that on
and
day
given these
one.
bombings are being done using
They're
our
saying it.
tax dollars, perhaps
We
we
said
should
it on
ask
day
some-
one.
They like she. So
fucking hypocrite. Yeah, we said
Are
that
you
shit on
arguing
day
that
one.
flattening the hospital and killing newborns in their incubators and their moms in the NICU, cancer patients, someone with a broken leg, the doctors, nurses, and just the women and kids hiding in the hospital, that's not a war crime?
Yeah, no.
We said that on day one.
And again, I will say,
day.
We were
This
being
is why-
called. We were being called
This is how
to
the
what
media
was it?
lies to you.
Like, I think people were telling me when I was making this basically this exact argument that Joyanne Reed is making. I was being told that I was like virtue signaling. You know, that like I was making a big deal of it or exaggerating. Is like, no, that's like the way it is. But like,
But the media doesn't lie to you. The media doesn't lie to you over like direct. Well, they do sometimes, but the majority of media lies is by omission. So here, in a lot of these clips that we're playing, it's purposeful ignorance.
and again, just like I'm encouraging everybody, go look up Trump's first major statement as he's running for president on Israel and match that timeline up for all these fuckers and what they're saying. I've already done it, and you will see some interesting fuckery because all of these, not a peep until Orange Badman goes up and says,
I'm
I support
pro-Israel." Yeah.
I support this side. And then all these dipshits are like, well, do we really you know, like kids dying, I guess, is kind of bad, some mimosa. You know, like that's I
so really,
this
you
up.
think it's just Orange Man? You think it's just Orange Man?
I don't think it's just Orange Man, but I feel like
It's a
they're
factor.
I feel like they're in a really tight spot. At the end of the day, I think this is like a everybody's scrambling moment. I don't think they have control over this whatsoever.
That's fair.
But I feel like they can't. I feel like they can't take the exact same position as the Orange Man on such like.
Well, you had a good take when you were comparing it to his take on COVID. Like they had to take the opposite side. So like you're right.
Yeah.
Like I think you have a good point there. But man, it just sucks that like Joyanne Reed for once in her entire career is speaking truth to power about this stuff, and it's just because Orange.
It's not truth to power. She's just being like.
Well, I mean, maybe not truth. All I'm saying
She's
is that
speaking
saying-
truth to Orange.
She's literally saying the same words that I was saying on October 8th, on October 9th, when they were like dropping bombs in Gaza, like right after. This was the shit that I was saying to fucking people on Twitter and online to my parents and shit. I was like, "Whoa, how many fucking Gazans have to die for it to be okay to satiate the bloodlust?" Like, you know, that's basically what she's saying anyway.
Because also, I mean, this is a good, like, you know, vote Biden. He'll do something about the Palestine thing. Like, you know, this is all like it's gonna go back into that whole like you gotta pick one of the two terrible genocide.
I guess the liberal viewing demographic would have a freaking like aneurysm if they were like, wait a second, why do we have the same position as Trump? We're supposed to be complete opposite on everything.
Yeah, because then
What's
everybody's
going on?
Yeah, exactly.
Because they've programmed everybody into this reptilian, like black and white, like cluster B splitting kind of thought process where it's like there's a 1 or a 0 and you have to choose one of them. Otherwise, you're a insert.
Yeah, it's the in-group, out-group.
Yeah, exactly.
So this one's interesting as well because it's actually
Would you go back to
humanizing
in a heartbeat?
The Gazans.
In an absolute heartbeat. My heart is in Gaza. It will stay in Gaza. The Palestinian people that I work with, both our national staff in the office as well as my staff at Indonesia Hospital, were some of the most incredible people I've ever met in my life. When everything went off and we got the notice to move south of Wadi Gaza, I was texting my nurses at Indonesia Hospital and I said, we lost a nurse weekend 1. He was killed when the ambulance outside the hospital was blown up. And I was texting them when we got the evacuation orders and I said, did any of you move south? Did any of you get out? Like, are any of you coming down this way? And the only answer I got was, this is our community. This is our family. These are our friends. If they're going to kill us, we're going to die saving as many people as we can. And I said, if I can ever have an ounce of the heart that you have, I will die a happy person. They were incredible. And that my doctors and nurses didn't leave out of loyalty to
sorry, real quick.
Their community.
Another thing to note real quick. Notice how we're seeing deviations from the major corporate press outlets and politicians in their statements, because that's another thing to think about. A lot of these politicians, even the more progressive fucking liberals, are still 100% behind Israel, and we're seeing the corporate press kind of steer off the beaten path and kind of deviate a bit. So that's an interesting phenomenon as well, of which I don't have an explanation for yet, but I will one
They're
day.
all scrambling. I think you guys had a good point. That's like they're
They're
understanding
shitting and farting.
The narratives just aren't working.
And I know that there is an idea being pushed right now that anyone that stayed behind is going to be considered some kind of a threat. And I want to remind people that the people that stayed behind are heroes. The people that stayed behind are they know they're going to die, and they're choosing to stay behind anyway.
You're talking about doctors, nurses, and the
So
hospital.
I think this is an important clip.
I
just
wake up
because-
every morning and I send out a text message and I ask, are you
There's
alive? And
so much obvious humanizing in that clip. Like, remember, like when this first started, they were like everybody was a Hamas terrorist, that everybody was like human animals according to like what Yoav Gallant. Huh?
Yeah,
I know.
But this is what you were talking about. The media, the political elites. It's a funnel. It's a funnel.
Mhm.
This is why they stay stable.
But
we're only talking about the top of the funnel.
I know, basically. I guess we could wrap up with the Jake Tapper clip. So this one I threw in at the end because actually in the beginning of it, I'm like, of all people, Jake Tapper's actually like giving credence to the protest. But after about minute 45, he starts going down the Hasbara hole, and it's like really obvious.
Bro, before my eyes focused, I thought that was Rachel Maddow. Fuck.
Calling for a ceasefire in Washington, D.C., in Paris, and Berlin. Protesters are crying out about the humanitarian crisis, the loss of life, the suffering of so many innocent civilians. This morning, red handprints could still be seen on the White House fence left from protesters over the weekend, trying to tell President Biden that the U.S. has the blood on its hands of innocent lives. And how can you not be affected by these horrific images we're seeing out of Gaza? Children bloody, children's bodies, families starving, little, if any, medical care, homes destroyed. Defense forces insist they're targeting only Hamas, which hides and fire rockets at Israel from among the Palestinian people, from among civilians' homes. But the Secretary General of Amnesty International told CNN that Israel has waged a, quote, campaign of violations of international law. Something must happen, she said, so that we alleviate the suffering of the people of Gaza, unquote. The Queen of Jordan, Queen Rania, who is Palestinian, said this in an interview with CNN's Becky Anderson.
I know that some who are against the ceasefire argue that it will help Hamas. However, I feel that in that argument, they are inherently dismissing the death, in fact, even endorsing and justifying the death of thousands of civilians. And that is just morally reprehensible.
Justifying the death of innocents of civilians. That's an interesting turn of phrase. Something that has concerned us greatly, something
now
that we
he's
have wondered
dog shit.
about ever since Hamas brutally attacked so many Israeli civilians.
Brutally.
Is what exactly did Hamas think the Israeli military would do in response to that?
See, now it's like, oh, they had it coming. What'd you think was gonna happen? He couldn't do a 2-minute clip on the fucking without being like,
you couldn't take it. Well, come on, man. He sounds like a fucking. He sounds like he got bullied in high school.
He probably did. I would have bullied him personally.
Imagine reading off his cue cards for like this entire segment, being like, all this stuff happened. Amnesty International's calling for a ceasefire, all this stuff, and be like, well, they had it coming anyway. Like just a terrible human being.
They had it coming.
Even Tapper for a minute and a half had to be human for a minute and a half before like spewing at the Hasbara. But you could tell, like as soon as that, it's like almost on a dime, it was like, well, they had it coming, and it was like just all of a sudden the narrative like changed. Like he had to freaking get back on track and support Israel full throated.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of like in CX when you gotta empathize with a customer, but then you gotta tell them some bad news. You always gotta start out with like, I get it, I know, I understand your frustration. You gotta start out with like, I get you're frustrated, I know this sucks. Unfortunately, our policy says kiss my ass. Like you gotta start out soft. And then when you're gonna close the ticket, you gotta kind of move into the, well, no, you're not getting what you want, and you can't speak to my manager either. Goodbye, Karen. Like that's what he's
That's
doing.
pretty much what it is. That's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
I actually did include that Yuval Harari as well, but I just conclude that just because it was kind of contrary to what you're hearing from CNN and MSNBC in those few clips. So it stands to reason that while all the like rich people and the people controlling our media are all fumbling and trying to figure out how to push out a narrative, that there's multiple, rich fucking factions out there trying to establish their own narratives. So that's why it's not that crazy that like Yuval Harari and the WF could talk about how a nuclear option is on the table at the same time that CNN could be like, well, wait a second, there's all these people who are getting killed. We should like pull it back a little bit. Because like you said, they're fucking scrambling. They're trying to figure out how to get their story straight. And so there's multiple factions trying to figure out what story they want to go with.
Well, for the WEF crew, I'll always go back to this. Like they thought COVID was going to be the prompt for them to like bring in the, okay, we got this new cool thing called stakeholder capitalism. That didn't work. It didn't fucking work at all. It blew up in their face, and they're probably still mad about it. Now the only option, some kind of war. There's got to be some kind of event where they can come in and be like, okay, you know what? Like, we can't keep going this way. Let's go this way. I promise it's not neo-feudalism. This is like, it's kind of like socialism, sorta. Anyway, get back to work.
Yeah, so okay, I get what you're saying. It's like they just want the worst possible outcomes for us at all times, and they don't really care how they get there.
That's if I were to hazard a guess, obviously I'm not a mind reader, but at the end of the day, I would safely assume that it's like, as long as they have that in, I think that's what they're looking for. They're looking for an in so they can present like the transition forward, even though technically we're kind of going backwards, but the transition into like a mode of governance that works more for them. And for that would be, stakeholder capitalism. Eat the bugs.
I mean, honestly, I just saw what he was saying as an endorsement because the WEF is all about depopulation. So if they're like, oh, we can kill 2 million people in one blast, like, yeah, of course, we're for it.
Yeah.
Like, so that's
you could say we could kill 2 million birds with one.
It's kind of that's kind of how it is.
That joke didn't even make sense, but I did it anyway.
2 million birds with one stone, one very big stone.
Yeah, I just don't think they care. As long as there's a big bad thing, then they can present themselves as like, hey, we'll save you from the big bad thing. Follow me. It's not a slaughterhouse. I promise. We have candy. We have cookies. Come here. Just come here. Just don't resist. Like, that's what I think it is, at least.
I get that. So for the last part of this kind of stuff on propaganda, I saw a lot of comparisons between the Ukrainian military, the IDF and the U.S. military and how they engage with social media and how they try and like scrub our brains. And I just kind of wanted to play some clips and kind of illustrate that stuff.
The feds got you again? Damn.
So first off, I'll need a good timing because I'll need you to help me out in a second. So first off,
the show on.
What's that?
Just do it. Never mind. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. So I don't know if you guys were on social media and like Twitter and whatnot during the Ukraine war, but we saw a lot of like the like dancing and kind of like sexualized war stuff going on during Ukraine, and it's starting to happen with Israel as well. So I just wanted to pull up this clip and then we'll start playing in some of the video clips. But they're doing the same exact thing. They're, you know, taking classically attractive European looking women and putting them in military gear and trying to basically sexualize war because it's so fucking gross and heinous that it's the only way they can get support.
You know what's the biggest tell with this shit? Always blue eyes. Go look at it.
Well, okay, so I wasn't trying to like
always blue eyes.
They're white Europeans. They're like, I don't know how to say it, but yeah, like there's definitely a type that they're going for. I mean, and the other thing that I noticed is that when they're speaking English or there's English subtitles, they're targeting an English audience. You know, an English speaking audience, an American audience. Is this a video I put in? Oh, okay. Oh, it looks like you found a freaking. Okay, I got you. Oh my god. But yeah, so this was what was happening. It was what the same thing as Ukraine was doing. They were trying to like sexualize their freaking military. And I've kind of had this thing going in my head where I started seeing how badly the Ukrainian side was doing in the Ukraine-Russia conflict, was that there has to be some sort of correlation to battle readiness and military readiness and how they make themselves appear on social media. And the more kind of hedonistic, bohemian, and kind of like, frankly, again, I'll say it again, like sexualized they are on social media, the shittier the performance, or the more the theater they tend to be, and more fake they tend to be. So with that being said,
so it's narratives repeating themselves over and over and over again.
Well, and that's the thing. That's the thing I really want to drive home is that like it's repeating itself for sure, and almost to the point where you're like, wow, like
they're running into problems where they're trying to repeat the same narratives over and over again. It's the same thing like they tried with the Iraq 9/11 narrative. You know, that one's not working. They're trying now with the TikTok women dances. These are the playing cards. This is just what they're dishing out. This is how they roll.
So
and it's the same
I think
cards,
they
people are recognizing it and they're not buying it. They're just simply not buying it anymore.
And I think that goes back to what we were saying in the beginning, where ironically they're using TikTok to try and appeal to the lowest common denominator, and like smart Zoomers and millennials are using TikTok to kind of like, yes, there's also people who are just e-girls and appealing to the lowest common denominator, but there's also the people who are disseminating truth and trying to get information out there to people. And what I'm seeing is the truth tellers and the people who want to get us to be informed about what's really going on are succeeding over the people who are appealing to baser instincts. So yeah, we can play this. But yeah, you guys might have seen this shit. But this happened right after October 7th or something. But this is what IDF does.
I think they've been going at this for a while. Been kind of
I mean, it's like the dancing thing's been a thing, but when it happens during an active conflict like this, it raises my eyebrows. Like, look, it looks like he's in the office. I don't know if he's in a recruiting office or like part of his job. Hey, get out there, part of your fucking job.
We should mute this.
It's a direct correlation to how bad you can dance on fucking TikTok and your ability to take a dirt nap from a masked soldier.
Yeah, there's some random guy in the chat.
Look, same
saying
guys,
mute.
same
I don't
guys.
know.
Like this is literally their job.
Literally the same exact guy.
Same guy, yeah. And there's another video with both of them as well. But yeah, same guy. Like, okay, you look like you're ready to freaking protect your fake country.
Bad cookies.
But,
Everybody has
like,
strange trends on their
I
TikTok.
don't understand. I just
Mine
like
don't make sense.
And here's
Oh
Ukraine.
yeah, so you can see the crane. But you can see like this is an old
Ukraine.
video, but
It's the same exact narratives. The same exact ones.
pay attention to the e-girls on the truck, because if you pay attention to the e-girls, you're not paying attention to what's really going on.
Another one from Ukraine. They're still doing this. This is from November
They're still
2023.
they are still doing this stuff. But you can
They're
find old
using
videos.
two narratives
That truck
at
one
the
is like a
same
year old.
time. They're using two different propaganda methods at the same time for two different wars. Just
Well,
get
it's
that
like
in
Two
perspective.
unsuccessful wars, two wars that the U.S.
failing
and its allies
miserably.
will not win, cannot win.
Well,
That's like
I kind of made a tweet about it. I think. Let me check. Was it a banger?
the winners are not
Yeah, it was a banger.
are not advertising their soldiers like this.
But it's like I kind of made a quip that it was like it's probably not by accident that all the NAFO fuckers are saying goodbye and riding off into the sunset as we get like bombarded by all of these weird like pro-Israel shills.
Yeah, that wasn't a coincidence. It's like, oh, like all the money NED went from Ukraine to Israel. You guys need to get that remote work.
Because it's still the same. It's still the weird, like it's the same weird tactics where it's like they don't even make sense. It's just like I'm just gonna say anything, even as long as it's incendiary. Like fuck.
They can't appeal to us with truth because they're on the side of lies and stuff. So all they have is, okay, well, we're just going to like sexualize our troops, and that's how we're going to get support.
Pretty much.
But yeah, you can see that. And then looks like there's some more. Do you remember
What was Luhan?
Yeah, you don't remember Luhan? This was like the OG e-girl stuff when it started happening. When she started playing her videos, that's when everybody kind of woke up to the e-girl like military psyop thing.
Hold up, Luhan? That's the Mortal Kombat character, right?
But she, I mean, maybe, but she's also one of the like US what's the name? PsyOps. She's in PsyOps. She's in PsyOps.
IDF furry psyop.
And which I'll play in a second. But wait, you don't remember the Luhan video? The like maybe it's play the one that remember Luhan, the American e-girl psyop, the one above that. Yeah, you'll remember this. You'll remember this. Huh? You said it's Zace World. All right, hold on.
I'm gonna hold on.
Oh my god! Why'd you have to be blocked by it? Like that account's so fire too.
No, I'm on a new account. I got my backup now. It's okay.
Yeah, play that. Because it's a good clip, and you'll remember it. I think you'll remember it. But she kind of started. This was like right around the beginning. I'd say probably around the beginning when the Ukraine conflict started too. Like I saw her around.
Oh yeah.
What you're seeing is advanced warfare.
The U.S. government is engaged in a large number of secret medical experiments.
What?
Just make sure it's muted so we don't get copyright fucked.
Oh, I didn't even pay attention to that.
Yeah.
But you don't remember this? She was like, what if like, so like the American military is doing the same propaganda stuff that the Ukraine is doing, that Israel is doing. They all have the same playbook. Okay? I
am the glow goat. You sure are.
That guy's just saying it's propaganda. It's propaganda.
Yep. Yep. Definitely is.
But they're all doing the same playbook, and they're not doing it to appeal to the people who know what's up. They're appealing to like the biggest idiots, and like this one. And we can actually play. You can go to that IDF cat girl now, I guess, to kind of wrap it up. We're almost done with this segment, but she actually referenced one of the weird things that these military outfits do is they actually reference the PSYOP. They're like, we know we're PSYOPing you, and they try and get you to accept the PSYOP by basically telling you that, like, oh, it's no big deal, it's just us, like, we're cute girls, like, don't pay attention to it. Like you saw with the IDF and CAD girl thing. So here, that's her. That's one picture of her, but I have a couple of videos as well, just to kind of seal it, show you guys that it's really like the same exact shape. They find the white Europeans, as you pointed out, Himbo, and just get us to appeal to our baser instincts.
Here's some more Hasbara that Norman and Finkelstein was able to debacle and dismantle.
That was a good clip.
I hate that it works on men, but it does.
Not want to help their brothers and take them in, spread them out. You don't want them in Egypt. You don't want them in Jordan. You don't want them in Syria. You don't want them in Saudi Arabia. There's a million countries. Spread them out. Nobody wants to help them. Why?
This is a difficult. I'll tell you what. Let's pause for a moment. Thank you.
I'll answer in one simple sentence.
Make your point. Make your point. But we're going to.
Any of the European countries or the United States want Jews before the Nazi Holocaust? Maybe the Jews were like the Palestinians. They were so horrible. They were so vicious. They were so bestial, or as the current Israeli government calls them, human animals. Maybe that's why none of the European countries and the United States didn't want them. Do you think that's the reason?
This is not easy. But we're going to have to, gentlemen.
Do you think that's the reason? You're smiling, but your stupid smirk won't change the fact that the very argument you used was used by Hitler. Yeah,
used by him. This is such a brilliant.
That's the Mona Lisa of Hasbara.
And you know they've been owned too when their whole face turns into an asshole like his did. Whole face puckered into a sphincter. That's when you know the L has been successfully delivered to the recipient.
Oh, so I guess for the last bit here. So just to wrap up, because I think we're almost done here. I appreciate it. There's just a couple more points here. But there's some stories that even though they've been pretty much debunked, there's still like 4 weeks later, there's still stuff that's repeated, even by journalists that I watch regularly, even by journalists who I think know better. They're still repeating lies just because they've been beaten into their head so much. So there's two different things that kind of tie all this stuff together. One of them is known as the big lie. So this is like basically a truism, I guess, that the bigger the lie, the more absurd the lie, the more likely people are to believe it. So that's why when you hear something like the 40 beheaded babies thing, people just believe it because it's such an absurd thing. You'd have to be a complete psycho to make something up like that, right? So people are more inclined to believe it. This is literally Hitler wrote this in Mein Kampf. He came up with this, and our propaganda machine uses Hitler tactics. Okay, so when you hear about the 40 beheaded babies, that's a big lie. That's complete bullshit. I don't know I know we're approaching 3 hours at this point, but a couple ones to remember. I include the clips. I don't know if we want to play them. There was the incubator babies with Naira. That reminds me a lot of what we're hearing with the 40 beheaded babies, just because it's so ridiculous and it was such a huge lie that and the Western powers went through great lengths to try and put this lie out there, and it ended up getting debunked. Same thing with Gaddafi giving his soldiers Viagra. That was debunked. And then I also included Yeonmi Park, which is one of the popular DPRK defectors who puts out bullshit all the time, who also disseminates just big lies one after another. This clip is fucking hilarious. And if nobody's we can
she
play.
could have
scared and like raped and starved. You just never know how to find people.
It's just like
the entire thing is nonsense. You can play it from the
whole
beginning.
thing
Just
is
if you want to play.
victimhood. It's like look at me. But look, I'm just a pretty girl. What else can I do? It's like it's very like that. That's where they portray their innocence is through other people because Netanyahu can't do this. He can't convince you as much as a woman. Yeah, but
You should see a psychotherapist.
I mean, that's
probably.
a fair point. That I mean, it goes back to what I was saying that they're like sexualizing all this stuff to try and get you. Oh, just look at don't pay too much attention to what she's actually saying because if you pay too much attention to it, you'll know it's total bullshit. But there was also, I guess you kind of skipped over. But there's also another strategy that called the illusory truth effect, which is basically like they keep repeating the same lie over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and eventually you just believe it. Yeah, eventually it's true. Oh, crazy!
We talked about this. Yeah,
we did. I'm sorry, but that kind of goes back to the like massacre on October 7th. So we covered last week with Max Blumenthal's expose on Gray Zone about how it appears that the massacre that happened on October 7th was mostly done by IDF tanks, IDF Apache helicopters, Hellfire missiles, and IDF Crossfire. So there's a lot of argument to be made that the main aggressors, or maybe that's not the right word, but the main the people who did the most damage during the massacre on October 7th came from IDF. It didn't come from Hamas. So part of this illusory truth effect and the big lie was putting that stuff out there, repeating an enormous lie, 40 beheaded babies, this huge massacre. We have to condemn Hamas. It's all part of this big lie and illusory truth effect where they're just kind of trying beating it into our heads and beating this insane bullshit into our heads over and over and over again. And they just hope that eventually it becomes truth. I see this happen. I saw this happen. I see it happen. I've seen it happen since day one. I fucking love Glenn Greenwald. Glenn Greenwald is one of my favorite journalists, but he's like, when you watch his show, he's always very, very quick. And I think it has a little bit to do with him trying to mind his audience. He's very, very quick to be like, oh, this massacre that was committed by Hamas, of course, everybody, you have to be crazy not to condemn Hamas in that situation. So he's all on board on that stuff. And I'm just making an example. I'm sure there's other journalists out there. But at the end of the day is that what I want to drive home is that like you can be like one of the best journalists in the world and you're still not immune to these propaganda tactics. So it takes a lot of vigilance on the part of the person who's aware that these propaganda tactics exist to be aware of the possibility that it's influencing. So, but I don't know. That's kind of all I had there.
This other story, the
Shayna Luke one. Oh yeah. So that was another thing that you want to say anything to it?
Let's take this narrative and the human shields, and then just wrap it up.
Okay. So this was like another story in the beginning. This Shayna Luke, like this girl who was like brutally killed or whatever at the rave. And then we found out that like her grandma said that she was in the Gazan hospital. And let's remember that Hamas has more of an interest in taking prisoners so that they can do a prisoner swap than beheading people and killing people. Like
way more.
If we're being callous about it, and just
they can get 1,000 of them back.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was 2011 or 2012. They got over 1,000 people back for one prisoner. But yeah, this is the truck allegedly that Shayna Luke was on with her head intact. That's one of those stories that just keeps coming back in mainstream media to hammer on, like, I feel like mainstream media and the Hasbara machine is really leveraging the October 7th massacre as the source of where all our animosity needs to be focused on around Hamas. Because without the massacre, without this crazy shit that happened in the beginning of the conflict, they can't really justify, the 10,000 people that they've been killing in Gaza for the last 3 weeks. So,
anyone else getting deja vu? Because I sure fucking am.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, there it is.
Note that Shani Nicole Luke, who was already interviewed by, her family was interviewed, her mother was interviewed by German newsreels, has been confirmed as murdered and dead. They found her skull, which means these barbaric, sadistic animals simply chopped off her head when they were attacking and torturing and killing Israelis. It's a huge tragedy, and I send a lot of condolences to the her bereaved family. She was
it's there in real time.
It's
real
crazy.
time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he said she was beheaded, but that doesn't even line up because they said she was in the hospital. They found a piece of her skull. It just doesn't, none of this makes sense. I don't know why. I don't know why they decided to bring this girl back like 3 weeks later after it was like debunked on the second day, because it seems to me that they're really grasping at straws. Like, oh, we found this like fragment of skull and we're just going to assume that it's hers and we're just going to line it up. And allegedly we did a DNA test and we found out immediately that it was Shani Luke. Like, there's so many holes in the narrative, but it won't fucking die. So between that one, the massacre, and I guess the 40 beheaded babies, those are just like some of those big lies that just won't fucking die. And
Spoiler alert, she's actually that nurse from the beginning of COVID. You remember that one? No, I'm kidding. They're just, they're just recycling at this point.
But yeah, did you?
I mean, I guess like that pretty much wraps it up. But we're seeing a lot of what we're calling, like, I really want to dissect this human shields argument, right? So this is being used to justify.
I included. There is a video that I included. Did you? Okay.
Yeah, is that?
I think we talked about. Yeah, go to the Norman Finkel. It's literally the last link. Go all the way to the bottom.
Yeah,
Norman Finkelstein on, and then just start at about 140 or hour 40. It's a long. By the way, Norman Finkelstein is like doing God's work right now and is trying to show up on any freaking podcast he can and any freaking appearance. Like, literally go on YouTube every day and just type in his name and look for new stuff. So
yeah, me too.
This man, if people aren't aware of who Norman Finkelstein, he's made his entire freaking professional life dedicated to the Israel-Palestine conflict. And he kind of retired from it in 2020 because he thought it was so hopeless. And then the October 7th conflict got him to kind of, I guess,
reactivate,
be more interested in trying to get the word out. So that's why he's like so vigilant on getting on camera and getting the word out. And he's been a really good source for knowledge these last few weeks. And in general, like there's tons of stuff, but
yeah, he's been really clapping cheeks, as the kids say.
Please, if you see yourself doing any of this, I need you to
please
stop. Just stop.
Just stop right now.
Get some help.
There's ways to get help. If you're seeing yourself justifying the deaths of thousands over a couple hostages, and this is it's the fact that they can just say Hamas is there, Hamas is here. No, Hamas. They can bomb anything they want then if they just say there's a Hamas military base underneath. Which we're hearing there was actually I saw there's an Al Jazeera investigation that saw that there was no underground base underneath the hospital.
Of course not. You remember that 3D fucking video that they made? And
there was no base.
No,
they just proved that wrong
bullshit,
today.
Man. It's all bullshit.
It was all bullshit. It was all.
Guys, I'm sorry. We had to start war with China. Hamas is actually in China. By the way, just in case you're wondering, I wonder if the Chuds are pinning like Palestine to communism. Fuck yes, they are. I see that shit every day. They're creating they're using all the propaganda tactics and just trying to messily squish them all together.
Dude,
it's
come on,
fucking funny.
Nobody.
The Palestinians are communists. Why are they making them sound based?
I know, right?
There's nobody in God's earth who's read more human rights reports on the occupied Palestinian territories than I have. Now, I don't consider that the most impressive credential.
Right.
And going to my death, I have to say that it's very, well, causes me to wonder whether I made the most fruitful, productive use of my life. Because literally, I'm being very serious now. I would say of the last 40 years of my life, about 80% was devoted to reading human rights reports. Not once, not twice. I read most of them around 3 times. So I can say with a certain amount of certitude that the statements I'm going to make to you now have a lot of documentary authority. Yes. They command a lot of documentary authority. If you take the case of the human shielding, you go back and you look, for example, I'm taking one example, there are many. If you take the case of human shielding, Amnesty International, after Operation Cast Lead, put out an extensive report. It was titled 22 Days of Death and Destruction. And it looked at the question of human shielding, because that came up already in 2008 during Operation Cast Lead. Yeah, it was a huge talking point.
And still is, yeah.
Amnesty International found that there was no evidence that Hamas had engaged in human shielding.
None.
However, that's only half the story. The other half of it is there was extensive evidence that Israel engaged in human shielding. It forced Palestinians to sit by tanks and artillery as they were fired. It walked Palestinians and fired from the shoulders of Palestinians. It stood in windows, it puts the Palestinians in windows and fired behind them. So Ms. Schumer is twice wrong. There was no evidence on the strict issue of human shielding that Hamas engaged in it. There is a lot of evidence that Israel engaged in it.
Projection. Remember, projection.
I think that's really all you need.
Always accuse your enemy of that which you are guilty of.
And I mean, yeah,
That's
he just backs it up.
Goebbels.
He backs it up with facts. Like if there's one guy who's like, I assume I'm gonna just be on the honor system that like Norman Finkelstein isn't lying that he read all that stuff. He comes across as a academic who would have read all that shit. Yeah, he comes across as somebody who totally would have read all that shit over and over and over again. And I kind of want to get his book now, but
and I support hummus. Like I would join hummus today.
I was gonna say, but does he support hummus?
No, but
do you condemn hummus?
I do.
I support hummus.
I can't condemn. I can't condemn all hummus. I do like some. It's got to be a little spicy though. I only like spicy hummus. I condemn non-spicy hummus. I think.
Don't get the Sabra hummus.
Yeah, don't get Sabra. That's on the BDS shit
list.
That's
the dirty Jew hummus. No, I'm kidding. Oh my God. I'm joking. Stop. I'm joking. Stop. It was a joke. Well, we can't make jokes. Come on.
It's a good joke.
The hummus.
It's a good joke.
It's about the hummus.
Need that hummus.
We support hummus. No, not that. We condemn Hamas.
Hey, on a completely unrelated note, can you guys help me make a soundboard?
Don't. Please don't. Oh my
Just
God.
on every
no.
On every Ben Shapiro video, there's Greg.
No.
That was a good one-liner.
Get a stream deck. Yeah, but that requires. I didn't put enough points into tech. I'm sorry, I can't do that.
I think there is like a free version, a mobile version though, of the stream deck.
I have good friends. I love the Jews.
Dude, you don't need to.
I love the Jews. Actually, is this how I'm recovering? Am I recovering yet? Am I walking that back right?
You're fucking. You're like, you know what? You know what? I am going to
Is it just bad
do.
when I just say the Jews? Is it just like you can't say the Jews?
No,
Bro,
but to be fair,
you are doing your own Samson option right now. That's what's happening. God damn it.
We're currently demonetized on YouTube because of this. So you know why? You can know why.
Yeah, if you need to know why.
If you want to know why we're demonetized, it's because of shit like that. All right.
If you didn't know before tonight, you definitely have an idea.
You have an idea. So everyone who's paying for YouTube, they're not anymore. They're not anymore. No one's on YouTube.
Oh my god.
But you can support us on Patreon. Patreon and Substack. Move to Patreon and Substack. That's where we can get your support. You can help, get these streams and continue.
And to that point, like we all know that YouTube is going the way of the dinosaur for anybody who wants to speak truth. So there's going to come a time where, eventually
we're going to get off completely.
Yeah, we're like most of our stuff is going to be predominantly on Rumble or, whatever manifests at that time. But we've known for at least a few months, if not more desperately recently, that YouTube is just stuck on the current thing and is arbitrarily demonetizing and shit. I saw it after Richard Medhurst said that his shit got demonetized. I was like, oh, this shit's over.
Yeah, it's over.
Yeah. There's not enough hummus on the YT. You gotta if you want that spicy hummus, you gotta check out some other platforms because
yeah. Sorry guys. We've only got just the regular brand here. Just the regular Kirkland brand.
Kirkland brand.
Yeah, it's just the Kirkland one.
Hummus?
That's the good hummus. Okay, that's enough. We'll wrap this one up. All right.
Do you have any closing comments, Greg?
And like the stream, that boosts the algorithm at least. So don't pay money if you can't. If you don't have the money, definitely don't do that. But instead, like and subscribe. That's a free thing that you can do, and it helps all of us here. So hope you have a good
Thank
Tuesday.
you all for
tomorrow
tuning in. Yeah, I know. We usually on Monday, so I appreciate you guys coming on tonight. So I know we had to change the date, but are we sticking with Tuesday or do we just switch it up for this week?
No, it was just for today. I mean, this
okay. So
all right,
a curveball, but appreciate everybody joining us tonight.
Be sure to check out the rest of the shows for the rest of the week. Terra, INN News, etc. But just bump to the screen. All right.
Sounds
good night,
good.
folks.